Hi, good morning, everyone. Welcome to our Friday weekly Ask Me Any Stock session. If you guys can see and hear me, just type a GM for good morning, guys. We're live now on YouTube. I think Facebook should be going on well as well. Good morning, guys. Let me know if you can see and hear me. You can also see the entire screen with our slides, everything. GM for good morning. If this is working, let me know. Let's see who is joining us here today. Okay, it seems to be a bit lagging, but let me just give you guys a few seconds just to make sure that this entire live session is working. Okay, very good. I think I can see your comments coming up. Thank you so much. For a moment I thought it was like some error again. Okay, good morning, Eric. Hi, Eileen. Good morning, Chi Sing. Hi, ABC. Hi, good morning as well, Vivian. Good to see you over here. Thank you so much for joining us. Thanks for being early. All right, and welcome to our Ask Me Any Stock session. Basically, every Friday, guys, we go live, and today we'll be diving into the US market, because last Friday was like the Singapore market, right? So today, back to the US market. So we alternate between the US and Singapore every single Friday, all right? So essentially, if you're looking at US stocks, all right, then you're in the right place today, all right, because we are going to go through, after doing a quick market outlook of what is happening right now, we're going to go through your US stocks, right? Your US stock using my one good trend strategy, using the tool that me and my team are using daily called the One Good Trend Pro indicator, whereby it allows us to get an opinion on any stocks in a matter of like seconds, all right? And that's what we do, right? We go through your US stocks. And at the end, that's where, we'll share with you guys three bonus US stocks that you want to put in your watch list for potentially more upside. That is the sector whereby we're seeing a bit more strength in, all right? And you watch these top three stocks at the end as well, right? So before we begin, guys, would it be okay if you help me to like and share, help me to like and share, help us to reach out to more people? That will definitely help out the channel as well when we go live in the future. Like and share, hit the heart-shaped button, I think at the bottom right, or make sure, guys, if you have not yet subscribe to our YouTube channel, or maybe even follow us on Facebook, make sure you do it. I think there is a button or a bell icon right at the top, and click on it so that when we go live, you can be alerted as well, or any new YouTube videos that are published as well, you can be alerted. And one of the things I want to share with you guys that we are also kind of like launching a new initiative whereby me and my team are doing a podcast. Right? We call it the One Good Chat podcast, whereby we kind of like chat about different topics. It will be stocks, about investments, trading, personal finance, and we will even have like expert speakers, trainers coming on board as well in the One Good Chat podcast. So make sure that will be on YouTube. So make sure you subscribe so that you can check out some of the podcast sessions that we do on our YouTube channel as well. We will try to publish every single week. Okay, Ken. So thank you so much. Let's get started right now. Okay. Very simple. I have with me my team, but before I even share with you my team, maybe let me just share a little bit of myself in case we have never met before. You're just scrolling through YouTube and Facebook. Well, my name is Joey Choy. All right, you can call me Joey. All right, top tier MRVL trader in Philip Securities. Well, I've been doing this for more than 15 years now. All right, pretty much focusing on stocks. Right, we do Singapore stocks, US stocks, a little bit of Hong Kong stocks, but Hong Kong market not so good, right? So mainly on Singapore and US for now. Okay. And I use what I call the One Good Trend strategy, right? Essentially riding the trends, maximizing our profits with the trend, having a very clear structure, all right, framework, process, when to get in, when to get out, all right? I don't have time to break down the whole strategy today, but essentially you can attend a free webinar. You can attend a free webinar. We don't have any webinar. This is not my full-time job to train and stuff, right? We try to do this every single Friday, all right, in terms of Ask Me Any Stock session. But I think we have a webinar, right, next month in like August, right? So nothing in July, probably in August. Well, click on the link in the chat, to find out a little bit more about the One Good Trend strategy, a 7-step checklist that we have, all right? And that's where we kind of like break it all down for you even more, all right? So the link is right in the chat to find out a bit more about the entire strategy. But today, no time, all right? It's just pump. We just go through your stocks, very quick, 1-2 minutes, and we move on to a new stock, all right? So that's me, right? Joey, founder of the One Good Trend strategy, right? Top tier broker, trader, Philip Securities. And I've been doing this, I would say, for more than 10, 15 years, right? So very simple. I'm going to pass on the mic to my team. We have like Bervin joining us here as well today, right? Bervin also one of the top brokers under me in Philip Securities, assisting our group coaching sessions, our one-on-one calls with our mentees, even assisting our teams, portfolio manager with an 8-figure portfolio management business. All right. So Bervin is a CFA, chartered financial analyst, right? One of the highest qualification one can ever get in the finance space. All right. And not just strong in technical, but also fundamental. And that's where I do consult him in certain fundamental analysis as well. All right. So let me pass on the mic to Bervin just to share a little bit on himself on how he can add value to you guys today. All right, Bervin, yours.
All right, thanks Joey for the introduction. Hi everyone, welcome back to our weekly AMAS session. Today we are covering the US market, like what Joey said, but just take note, the US market is not trading this evening, 4th of July holiday, but it will resume next Monday. And I think based on last night's trading session, it looks like market is still a bit jittery, a little bit of a sell down going on. I think when Joey covers the S&P 500, it will reflect that as well. But I think in general, surprisingly, throughout the first half of the year, I think the US market has performed quite well, right? It has performed quite well looking from January all the way to the end of June. Now we are into the second half of the year already, right? So I think the market is still very, very much cautiously optimistic. And we are echoing the same sentiments as well, right? So I think throughout the next half of the year, I hope you guys can continue to join us here on our weekly AMAS session. All right, where we use Joey's 1GT Pro indicator. All right, the 1GT Pro indicator to just give you a little bit of insight, give you a little bit of quick opinions on your stock. Right, but if you want to find out a little bit more about the framework itself, how we actually screen for the top stocks in the market, and how do we actually determine when do we want to enter the counter or when should we even sell the counter? All right, when to take profits. I think you can find out a little bit more by clicking on the link in the chat. I think just now we have placed it in the chat. Really just scroll up a bit and then it will be right there. All right. Without further ado, I'll pass the time back to Joey to actually continue on this session. Joey?
Okay, thank you so much. So yeah, today we have Z as well joining us. Jia is out running another project, but Z is right here joining us as well. And Z is an expert in anything to do with charts, technical analysis, candlestick, price action, patterns. Well, she is a chartered market technician. All right. So of course, very efficient, very pro in my entire one good trend strategy as well. And she's also a top broker under me. All right. Assisting our team's portfolio manager, assisting our group coaching, one-on-one calls. Let me pass on the mic to Z just to share a bit on herself. Z.
All right. Thanks, Joey, for the introduction. Hi, everybody. My name is Z, if you have not met. So I think basically like what Joey and Bervin mentioned earlier on today is about US market, right? So definitely I think the hottest topic over the past couple of months, everybody is just purely looking at tech. So later on, I mean, definitely if you guys request some tech stock, we will definitely look at that as well and to see how are they actually doing right now, right? But I think there are also other areas apart from tech, right? Whereby the market is actually still looking pretty strong, right? And still pretty bullish, right? So maybe perhaps stay all the way until the end, right? Then we can actually share a little bit more about that and what we actually think maybe some of the stocks, where are some of the funds actually flowing into and what are actually still looking pretty bullish. Don't have to just purely focus on tech, right? So, and I think the key thing here today is for us to actually add value to you guys with Joey's 1GT Pro indicator, because that is something that will be able to, perhaps give you a very quick opinion on whether if the stock is actually still bullish or bearish with just a click of a button whereby you can see a bullish or bearish signal, right? So without overcomplicating anything on your chart, okay? So without further ado, I'll pass my time back over to Joey so that he can kick off today's session.
All right, thank you so much, Z. So let's get started, guys. All right, we'll go and do a quick market outlook, going through your US stocks, okay, and then top 3 US stocks at the end that me and my team will share, right? So just a quick disclaimer as usual, whatever that's being shared in this live session as well as all other live sessions is just for educational purposes only, right? So please do your own due diligence. We're not asking you to buy or sell anything, all right? We're just sharing with you guys our approach, the one good trend framework structure, the tools that we're using, and you can decide on your own actions. Cool. All right. So this is a quick disclaimer. Do a bit of homework as well. Okay. So let's get started right now to cover maybe what we call the markets, the S&P 500 index. And that's what we do every single live show. Just to give you guys a quick update of what is happening in the markets. Are we more bullish or more bearish, right? So since we are looking at the US market today, why not we cover the top 2 most popular index, right? The first one will be the S&P 500 index, and then next one will be the Dow Jones, right? So let's just do the S&P first and see what's the difference between the S&P and the Dow Jones. So S&P, right? Pretty much the index that tracks the top 500 highest market cap stocks in the US market, right? You can see 7,483. Now let's just go to turn on, this one good trend pro indicator, whereby in a matter of seconds, right, I can turn on the bullish and bearish signals just to give me a quick opinion in seconds, right? So let me turn it on, 1, 2, 3, pump. So you can do it on any asset classes, even the market, any stock, all right? Turn it on, off, on. All right, let's turn it on and let's see, right? So you can see that, hey, for S&P 500 index, I'll not go too far, but previously in like March, April, we got 2 rates bearish signals popping out. So we talk about that in our live call as well in March, April. A little bit of weakness. US-Iran war started. Short-term trend. Look at the green line. It was turning down, down, down. And we sold off from 7,000 all the way to 6,004. Right? Quite not a very, very heavy sell now, but definitely a bit of a decent pullback. All right. But then what happens? Well, the reversal happened. There were some good positive developments, trade talks. Talks between US and Iran. 2 1GT bullish signals. The green 20 days moving average line also turned up. And there we go, right? We saw a very strong reversal, I would say, all right? All the way up from 6,005 to 7,006. So I would say right now, we are seeing indeed a bit of a resistance right over here around the 7,600 level. You can see we touched it about one time, went up, came back down again. In fact, past few days, we are nearing it, a bit of selling there as well. So 7,600, it used to be 7,005, I think now 7,006 over the past 1+ month. That's where sellers are out, right? And finally, you can see, right, that I talk about the green 1GT bullish signal popping out in like April, early of April, but somewhere in June, in fact, now it's July, right? So like early of June, we actually got the first 1GT bearish signal, all right? 1GT bearish signal means what? Well, it just means that there's some heavy selling have came back, all right? Just want to be a bit more cautious. We're seeing a bit of profit taking. Doesn't mean it's going to crash and then come all the way down, no, right? I mean, it just means that we're indeed seeing some selling, all right? So if you have got in on some good stocks, wrote some profits, you take some profit, take some money off the table as well, all right? And that's what we're seeing. And if you're looking at the green line, as I say, right, it was like from April, up. But when the 1GT bearish signal came out, a bit of weakness, a bit of selling, right? You can see that the green line, as another confirmation, actually did not continue to point up. I mean, if the green line continue to point up, then good lah, no problem, right? I mean, the bearish signal, maybe we can ignore it, right? But the green 20 days moving average line that give us an idea of the short-term trend actually did not point up, right? Why? Because we actually saw a resistance coming out at 7,600, all right? And that's where the green line actually started to flatten out, right? Flatten out, maybe a little bit down, but I would say flat to a little bit down, but definitely not up lah. Does it make sense about? All right. So what this means is that we are back to what we call a bit of a short-term sideways consolidation, right? From 7,600 as a resistance all the way to maybe a support level that came out, if I can draw it for you, around maybe the 7,250. Yeah, look at it, right? It seems like, 7,250, right? I can see over here, rebounded, it went down and rebounded. In fact, last week also went down and rebounded, right? So 7,250 to 7,600. That is pretty much the range right now as it consolidates sideways, which I think is good, it's healthy, all right? I mean, we have seen, okay, so why are we seeing a bit of selling over the past few weeks? Well, when we saw a rally somewhere in April, May, right, pretty much was led by the technology sector, right? We have all the big caps, AI plays, the tech sector all pushing higher. All right, and of course, some positive developments within the US-Iran war as well. First round of talks went through. Over the past few days, actually, there were some good developments in terms of, I think they kind of like met in like Switzerland, and then they signed what we call a peace agreement, ceasefire for 60 days. Of course, they're still ironing out some details regarding Iran's nuclear program, but the Straits of Hormuz, I think, once that positive is partially open, all right, but they're still kind of resolving whether, Iran should have any tolls after 60 days and all that, right? So at least there's a bit of positivity, right, coming out, right, in terms of the US-Iran war, okay? But the technology sector, well, that is where selling have came back because over the past 1 month plus, the new Federal Reserve Chairman, Kevin Walsh, have looked at what we call some inflationary data, right? The PCE data, personal consumption expenditure data. That's pretty much inflationary gauge that the Federal Reserve used to gauge inflation, right? So it's still remaining a little bit elevated, a little bit high, all right? And that's where there are talks about a potential rate hikes, right? Maybe one by the end of the year. So you can see that, in the beginning of the year, it was like rate cut, right? But now, changed a little bit because the US-Iran war, started, oil prices went up, it hiked up in inflation a little bit, right? So instead of a rate cut, now there could be nothing confirmed, but he kind of like hinted like that, of course, looking at more data along the next few months, but there may be a potential rate hike, maybe one time by the end of the year. And this is where, because all these tech stocks, they're pretty much like looking at growth potential when there are talks about rate hikes. That's where valuations can become overstretched, all right? And that's why we're seeing a bit of selling in the technology sector, especially the AI plays, the big cap as well, right? So I think that's where the market is seeing a bit of weakness, turning from an upward trend in the short term to a sideways trend. And I would say the sector has, shifted in terms of fund rotation away from the tech, maybe back to the financial sector, back to the healthcare sector, the utility sector in the US that's been doing quite okay, right? Doing quite okay, holding up quite well as well. Okay, Ken? So this is the S&P 500 index, right? Pretty much, I would say taking a breather, resting, which I think is fine because it has gone up from April, May, all the way up by about 15, 16%. I think it's okay to take a bit of a rest, all right? Move sideways a while, consolidate, gather some strength before the next move up. And that's what we like to see. It's a bit more healthy that way, right? If it consolidates below a resistance, it touched it a couple of times, it comes back down. But one fine day, if we were to break above that 7,600 right over here. I don't know when it will break up, but if we were to break above the 7,600 for the S&P 500 index, that is where the market would turn to be a bit more bullish. A green, now don't have any green, what green? That is green, this green 1GT bullish. Let's say we take and then we paste it over here or here or here. I don't know, right? If it comes out right over there, right? And we see the green 20 days moving average line, that is like a bit flat, as I said, right? Start to also turn up as another confirmation. That is where I would say that the S&P would turn even more bullish again, right? We will get out of this short-term sideways consolidation to a upwards momentum move again. All right, so I'm looking at that. Of course, we have some alerts. If a bullish signal gets triggered, that's where we will be alerted. All right, so there's the S&P. All right, pretty much, I hope you get a better idea of some of the news flow affecting the markets. Why are we selling down? Why are we consolidating? And, what are the sectors that are doing well? Okay, now let's take a look at maybe the Dow Jones very quickly. Dow Jones, since we talk at we look at the S&P, why not look at the Dow Jones, right? Which is a little bit different from the S&P 500 index, right? So you can see for Dow Jones, I'll not go too far, but for Dow Jones, same thing, right? We got bearish signal popping out in March, right? When the US-Iran war started, same as the S&P, so that one is about the same, okay? Green line also turned down. So we sold off from like 50,000 all the way to 45,000, right? But yeah, same thing. We got 1 GT bullish signal popping up that led the reversal. We have talked about it as well in our previous AMAS session, all right? And that led a very strong reversal. And in fact, we've also broken this very key 50,000 psychological resistance for the Dow Jones, right? So all this while we were below 50,000 since like the beginning of the year, right? Even before the US-Iran war, we were below 50,000, right? First, then US-Iran war started and went all the way down to like 45, then we rebounded back up, but we were actually still below 50,000, But one fine day, somewhere in, to be exact, 22 of May or 21 of May, we went above that 50,000. That is a sign of strength in the market, all right? And, you can see there's a bit of difference between the S&P and the Dow Jones, right? So the Dow Jones kind of like track not just the tech stocks, it's more of the general market play, right? Utilities, financials, healthcare, consumer staples, and all that. So you can see that it is pretty strong, right? S&P, we were like, consolidating below the 7,600 mark, correct? Short-term sideways. But if you look at Dow Jones, the green line, it's not sideways, right? It is still going up. All right, it's been going up since April, right? But for the S&P, it was up, then flat, right? For the past 3 weeks, it was like flat, right? Selling came back, right? But for the Dow Jones, you can see that, still up, right? So we are still seeing strength. Now, what does it mean? How come the S&P can be flat? How come the Dow Jones can be still up? In fact, yesterday, we have actually pushed to a record high, right? Record high, pretty good closing. In fact, right? Pretty good closing above that 52,500. In fact, above that, 50, yeah, I think somewhere around there. Yeah, 52,800 as well. Now we close at 52,905. So very strong record closing for the Dow Jones, right? Why are we seeing strength in this when the S&P is like going sideways and resting, right? Well, because the Dow Jones, as I say, track other sectors as well, which are actually doing a little bit better, a little bit more defensive, right? Not the AI, not the tech, valuations not so overstretched kind of play, right? And those are the sectors that are moving in the US. They're holding up really well, okay? And that's why we're seeing on the Dow Jones. That's why the market looks a little bit different, all right? The indices looks a bit different, all right? Because certain sectors are doing well, certain sectors are not doing well at the moment. Doesn't mean, the tech sector will not be doing well for the next like 5, 10, 20 months or what. No, I mean, probably a bit of sideways, a bit of consolidation. Could be another few more weeks, maybe 1 month, 2 months, I don't know, right? But taking a short-term breather, all right, if a resistance gives way, that is where more strength can happen again, right? Like for example, 50,000, that gave way, Dow Jones became stronger. Now that would be 7,600 for the S&P 500 index. If that gives way, next phase up, stronger. All right, and that's where we'll start to see a bit more strength in the technology sector as well. That pretty much the S&P 500 is pretty much tracking. All right, Ken. So that is the Dow Jones. Looks pretty good. Anything above 50,000, in fact, not even 50,000. I think anything above that 50. So 50,000 used to be a good support. In fact, we retraced back down, retouch it, retest, went back up. I think now anything above 52,000, all right, it's looking even more bullish. 50,000 a bit low already. I think now it's a bit higher. Support has gone up. Not 50,000, not 51. I think 52,000 for the Dow Jones would be a higher support already. Does it make sense, well? All right, Ken. So that is the Dow Jones. All right. Okay. So very quickly, guys, I've done a quick market outlook. What is happening in the market? Some of the key levels. All right, to take note of. So very simple. Let me go ahead to cover right now in the next segment of today's live show, which is your US stocks. Right. So do me a favor. Right. Go ahead to type in the chat the US stocks that you want a quick opinion on. Right. So what you want to do is very simple, guys. When you type the name of the US stocks, I mean, not just the name, right? It's actually the name and then plus a bit of context, right? And don't put like one time 10 names there or 5 names and then, expect us to cover 10 stocks. Probably that would happen, right? But just one stock, right? Just one stock. I mean, the one that you really, really want us to cover now. Just one stock and give us a bit of context, right? Like, are you looking to sell, to buy? All right, you bought what price? Is it last month or last year? All right, I don't know, right? So give us a bit of context so that when we analyze the stock, of course, we use the same 1GT Pro indicator. We have a better idea based on the context they've given us. And that's where you will get more value than if you just put one name there. I also don't know why you put a name there. All right? And that's where you also get more priority in terms of us choosing your stock to put on screen to show up as well, right? So do me a favor, type in the chat the US stocks. I haven't gone through yet, so let me just go through very quickly, guys. The very first stock for today, right? The very first stock for today. Let me see. Let me just pull that out. James, all right, okay, James, I hope you're still over here, right? That is pretty much the first stock for today. I bought MRVL Tech at $277. Wow, thank you so much. Also, not just MRVL Tech, but give me a bit of context. So I bought at 277. It dropped last night to below 250 already. Okay, let's check it out. MRVL Tech, MRVL, is it? MRVL Technology. Let's take a look. Okay, wow. Okay. So it dropped last night to below 250. Correct. It dropped to 245. What is the trend now? Should I sell to cut loss or hold on to sell possibly at $300? Okay, very good question, James. I hope you're still over here. Thanks for giving me a bit of context. Now, let me just go and hide your comments right now and see what is the play for MRVL Tech. You got it at 277. It came back down a little bit. What's the plan? Should you get out? Should you be a bit more afraid, scared? All right. What's the stop loss? Let's find out, right? So very simple. This is MRVL Tech at $245. Well, MRVL Tech, I mean, you can see quite clearly that, we already turned on the 1GT Pro indicator in terms of the bullish and bearish signal. So we have actually, this stock's been in our watch list since a couple of months back. Why? Because we actually got a bullish signal popping up right over here. Let's turn it on. Pump. On it. Off it. All right, let's turn it on. So any stocks, any asset classes, you can turn it on to get an opinion in seconds. So if you see like a bullish signal, great. So James, if you have got in over here, that'll be better, much cheaper. But you got in at, I think, 277. So maybe you got in like last week or over the past few days or maybe last month. But you can see previously we got bullish signals coming out. I would say since March all the way to now, 180%. Or 180%. All right. But never mind, you got in. I mean, it's gone up. You've got in a little bit higher, but no worries. Let's take a look at what it is looking like right now. So I would say that for MRVL, right, the short-term trend has been up. All right. Now, over the past few days, you can see that the green 20 days moving average line that was like going up since March, April, May actually started to turn down a little bit, right? A little bit, right? Just a little bit. You can see the green 20 days moving average line turning down a bit, prices below or the candlestick below the green 20 days moving average. So what does this mean? Well, it just means that the short-term trend is slightly weaker, right? We're seeing definitely a shift in the trend direction in the short term from up to a bit down. Well, what we can do right now is to also turn on the trailing support level, one of the very powerful features of my One Good Trend Pro indicator. Right over here, let's turn it on, the third box, boom. And there we go, right? So you can see that this trailing support level it has popped up in March, right? Since the bullish signal actually got triggered, a trailing support popped up. What is a trailing support? Okay, let me just go to turn off the 3 moving averages. It's a bit clearer. There we go. All right. So you can see that this trailing support popped up in March, right? And as MRVL Tech was about like $100, maybe $90 then, the trailing support was below it. As it broke the 100, it started to move up. The trailing support also followed it. Up, flat, and then up, flat, follow, right? So you can see right over here, it was like not moving, right? Not going up. So there's nothing to follow, so it just remained flat, right? But once it starts going up, it followed it up even more, right? There we go, somewhere in May, up, flat, and then over the past 1 month plus, right? Because it never really go up. We're seeing a bit of a resistance. I can draw it for you right here, 320, 320, right? That is pretty much a resistance level whereby some selling pressure is coming back, right? So first of all, if you are looking to take some profit, all right over here, because you mentioned that what is the trend now? Should I sell the cut loss or hold on to sell possibly at 300? Well, yeah, it could be 300, it could be near 320. I mean, anything right over, right over here. I mean, you can see for yourself, everything go up and come back down, go up and come back down, right? Anything, 300, 305, 310, 315, 312, up to you. Anything right there, I think that's where some selling pressure can come back again, like what we've seen over the past 1 month. So if it does rebound there, I think, yeah, nothing wrong. Take some profit, get out first, because you got in at about, 277 somewhere in the middle, of the range, all right, of the consolidation range. So not the best entry, right? But if you have got in slightly at a better entry price, like for example, right? So as I say, we are now very near the trailing support level. Look at this, right? This trailing spot is right over here, somewhere around that 232, 230 level, right? Right over here. This trading spot has popped up in March. It has been going up when we are above it since March for about 3 months. So as long as we stay above the trading support, right, above 230, 235, I think it still looks okay. In fact, that could actually be a good opportunity to think about getting in on dips, right? Don't rush yet, because I know the market's still a bit weaker, and then the short-term trend, as I mentioned, was a little bit down. All right, short-term trend, the green line, also slightly turning down. But let's say if you're to hold above the 235, now it's 245. So let's say we hold above 235 next few days, a few bullish candlestick coming out right over here, right? The green line also, stop pointing down, right? Starting to flatten out a little bit. It means that some support have came back out. That could be actually a better entry. That could be actually a better entry to get in on dips and maybe to get out near that 320, right? But in your case, let's say you've already got in, right? What you want to do is you want to have a plan, right? So 2 ways to go about it. First way, if it does rebound, you take some profit near 300 to 320, all right? If, I'm not saying it will happen, but if the trailing support that has popped up since March gets broken down, that means we go below it, right? Because as I say, this trailing spot, it accounts for the volatility of a stock, right? It gives the stock the space to breathe, right? If you're good, you should be above one, right? Because you can go near it, no problem, right? But don't go below it. Because once you go below it, that's where we have given you enough space. You use up all the space, but you break below it. It just means some selling have came back. We would potentially trigger a 1 GT rate bearish signal. right? And when that happened, like anything below 230 or 225, or maybe even 220, right? Then unfortunately, not so good. We could see what we call a short-term pullback, right? So that's where you want to have a plan to reduce some exposure, have a stop loss to just don't hold the whole bunch all the way down. So have a stop loss, right? I think just have a plan to. I mean, of course, you probably would need to do a bit of risk management, a bit of position sizing before you entered that trade. All right, so you don't have time to cover that whole thing, but attend a free webinar. That's where we will actually dive a bit more in terms of the 7-step checklist. Okay, but we essentially want to have a stop loss, just in case it goes below the trailing support that it should stay above. Have a plan to just reduce some exposure, get out, because we may see a pullback to 200, maybe to 150. I don't know, right? But that's where some selling can come back again, especially if the green 20 days moving average line that is a little bit pointing down right now start to point out even more, right? So like if we see a red color bearish signal, then the green line point out some more, and then you still hold all the way down, then cannot lah. Does it make sense, all right? But I'm not saying it will happen, right? But over the next few days, if we continue to hold above the 235, 240, and then a few bullish candles come out, the green line, nothing happens, start to flatten out, no problem, right? It might just be consolidating like what we have seen over the past 1 month. Good, right? Could be a good entry even, right? Better entry than the 277 in the middle of nowhere, right? So that will be a better entry to maybe ride it back up. You can take some profit near that, 320 to 300. Ken, James, I hope that helps. That will be the very first stock, MRVL Technology, MRVL. Right, so let me pass on the mic to Bervin to cover the next US stock. Bervin, yours.
All right, thanks, Joey. Okay, let's very quickly go on to the next stock. Just the one below, Playful. Hi, Playful. Not too sure is this your first time joining us, but welcome. Can I ask about the stock Netflix NFLX? And is it possible for it to break out to 100? It's around the $77 level right now. All right, thanks for giving us a little bit of context right there, but I'm not too sure whether you have actually bought it, or you're thinking of buying it, or you're thinking of selling it, you're holding it already, and if so, I don't know what is your cost price. If you can just add a little bit more information for me in the chat. That would be helpful to see if you're actually holding on to Netflix or not. All right, so I'll just do a general analysis for you first. I think for Netflix right now, really do not see much of a uptrend forming, although yes, nearer term there is some strength, but since pretty much in October last year, prices have fallen, right? Prices have fallen from that high of 130, previous high of 135, broke below several supports, tried to pretty much recover and rebound from a support level around that $75 level upwards to above that $100 level, but not being able to. We saw selling pressure actually come back in, and we are where we are at currently right now, with that 200 days moving average above the 100 days moving average, above the 20 days moving average. And notice that everything here, right, all of these moving averages are pointing down. All right, so I'm not too sure if the plan is to buy, but maybe for some of you guys in the chat, maybe you can help out Playful as well. If you do not have a position in Netflix right now, would you like to buy Netflix at the current price of 77? If you like to buy, press, or you can type B in the chat. If you do not want to buy, then maybe just type no, NO, or just N will do. All right, so would you like to buy some Netflix? Let's see. Buy. Lillian likes to buy Netflix right now. ABC, not really. Edina, not really. Aaron says no, wait first. Yicheng says no. All right, so some buy, some no. Don't really want to buy or get into Netflix right now. I'll agree with you guys, right? Victor says no, Dex says no as well. I think the nearer term trend doesn't really show much strength apart from yesterday. All right, apart from yesterday, we actually saw a little bit of buyers coming in, right? Pushing prices a little bit higher. Derek says buy and hold, rebounding from that $70 support level, the $70 psychological level. All right, so we have 2-1 GT bearish signal. I want 2-1 GT bearish signal. The first one appeared on the 17th of April. The last one appeared quite recently on the 22nd of June. Right, so typically when we buy stocks, we do not want to rush in to buy All right, definitely if you compare, is it cheaper than sometime in April? Yes, definitely cheaper. Is it cheaper than last week? Maybe around the same price as last week. Last month, it's cheaper than last month. So it's on a discount. Right? It's on a discount since since August of last year, October of last year. Netflix has just been seeing discount. So the thing is, cheap can become cheaper, right? All right. So of course, it looks like compared to $100, yeah, we still got a little bit of ways to go. You know, potentially if it hits up to $100, that's the amount of profits you can make. But we want to buy on strength. We want to buy on strength. We do not want to get in when everybody else is actually wanting to sell. So let's maybe buy, but buy on strength. But right now, only nearer term strength exists. The longer term trend doesn't really show much of a strength just yet. So why not we can exercise a little bit of patience. All right, the short term is flattening like what user has said here right there. All right, the short term is flattening, but we do not have a 1GT bullish signal just yet, and we have actually earnings coming up on the 16th of June as well. So I mean, depending on what the earnings shows, what is the forecast. I mean, personally, I'm still a Netflix subscriber. I mean, I support their company as a customer rather than a shareholder at this point, because I still feel that there could be continued weakness, especially if that $70 level gives way. We could potentially see downside to that $60 level. Right, so the immediate resistance right now, I would say right around that $80 to $82 level, or maybe even upwards of $85. That could be where we start to see some sellers come in again. Right, where some sellers could come in again. I think just now Joey turned on that trailing support, right? Trailing support or trailing resistance. Right now we have a trailing resistance. So when prices are heading up, we definitely will see a trailing support. But when prices are heading down, you will see a trailing resistance. So when a trailing resistance shows up, it will trail prices downwards, taking into account their volatility. So you want prices to be at least above that trailing resistance first. So I think when will that be? I don't know. I mean, the market is not trading today, but maybe in the next few weeks or next few days or so, if you are able to see prices break above that trailing resistance, break above that horizontal resistance as well to form a new higher support. Yes, I think potentially that could be a sign of that shorter term trend continuing, the momentum continuing to pick up, and even that 100 days moving average could start to flatten out a little bit more, putting yourself in a much more better position for an entry then. Right? Will you be buying on a little bit more expensive price? Yes, definitely will be a little bit more expensive. But then the additional conviction, the additional confirmation will be there for you. So I think if the prices start to weaken again, at least you know what to do. You will not be too lost. Imagine if you buy now, not in the support, not in the resistance, not close to the support, in the middle of the resistance and the support, and then prices started to hit down, you'll be a little bit more lost. Right? So I think there are other opportunities in the market. I think even after yesterday's sell down, there could be some counters that still demonstrate longer term strength, but shorter term weakness. And I think those counters are the ones that are worth looking at, rather than the other way around, where you got longer term weakness and shorter term strength. Your trade may not play out in the longer term. All right. So I think that is a very quick one for Netflix. I think I'll pass the time now to Z to cover the next requested stock. Z?
All right, thanks, Bervin. I think I agree with what Bervin said, like in terms of like Netflix. I'm also a subscriber of Netflix, right? But it doesn't mean that you actually have to buy that stock as well. So the next stock that I'm going to be covering will be by Lilian, right? So it is about C, right? So hi, Joey and team. You are thinking of buying C Limited. Appreciate your coverage on this stock. So just some back context, right? So C Limited, right? I think the main core division of their business is like Shopee, right? And I think there's also this financial digital payment thingy, and also Garena, which is like some video gaming, right? Video game development and publishing. So do I still use Shopee? Yes. But do I like the stock? Not exactly at this point in time. Why? Because take a look at the stock in the longer term, right? So to reiterate what I think Bervin was trying to tell you guys, right, about buying on strength, right? I think it's the same thing here for C Limited, right? Because why? The thing is that longer term trend, right? You look at the moving average, right? Just look at the moving average, blue and red line. They are actually still pointing down, right? They are still pointing down. But I mean, of course, when we turn on the 1GT bullish and bearish signal, we see two consecutive bullish signal, right? But do we just take a look at the signals on its own and then disregard everything else? No, right? It doesn't mean that sometimes when we see a bullish signal, it just indicates that, wow, immediately I take a position, go in and buy. No, right? Because at the end of the day, I think to reiterate what Bobby mentioned in terms of, to have as many confluence of factors as possible, to have a higher probability winning trade, right? We want to make sure that we are on the right side of the trend, right? So short-term strength, yes, we do see some short-term strength in this in terms of the 20 days moving average started to move up. We do see 2-1 GT bullish signal appearing, but longer term trend, it is still down, right? It is still down, right? But I mean, of course, we do see positive price action over the past couple of days, right? You can see that price, right, actually break above this level, which is this $100 psychological level, right? Turning it to become a support. It has been held below this since like start of March, right? This year, when it broke down with a 1GD bearish signal, it has just been kept below this $100 psychological level. Now it has broken and it is holding above it, right? But I think it's only one day broke above it. Second day yesterday held above it. Over the next week, next 1 to 2 weeks, can it hold above it? I don't know, right? I don't know. But I think that is one of the key things that you want to watch for as well. Why? Because if this $100 is actually able to hold, potentially we might see more strength returning. Because if it's able to hold, it tells us one thing, right? That buyers are willing to buy at slightly more expensive prices. And the potential upside target that we could potentially be looking at towards would be perhaps towards the 120, which is the next, the immediate resistance, right? Can you see right over here before it actually break down the 120? That was where the support is, right? Previously was a support, it broke down, became a resistance. So that will be the potential upside target if prices is actually able to hold above the 100 psychological level, right? But I think one of the key things that we want to watch for, right? Maybe let me just go back a little bit and show you guys this, right? Right over here, just focus on, maybe let me box it up. This period here, okay, maybe let me do this, maybe like that, easier to see. Okay, so just focus on this period right over here, right? Can you see that at this point in time, longer term trend is still down. Green is actually kind of like flattening out. We also got bullish signal, right? But I think what actually gives you the conviction and the confirmation, right, is when the longer term moving average, right, the red actually crossed above the blue. We got additional 1GT bullish signal come out, price break above resistance, turning into a new support, and there we go, right? You can see that subsequently when the longer term trend is up, there is more potential upside target that we could potentially be looking at as well, right? But not yet, right? Here, you see here, if I have to shift this like that, right? Here, not yet, right? Not yet, because longer term trend is not up yet, right? Here, longer term trend has given you that confirmation as well. On top of the price action that we are seeing, on top of the 1GD bullish signal, additional one, and on top of 20 days moving average also pointing up, right? So I think those are the factors that we want to look out for, right? In this situation, can it play out again? It could, right? It could. But the key thing is to look out for the signs, right? Whereby price is able to hold above $100 psychological level. We got another 1GT bullish signal coming out, and it will be even better when, the red and the blue line starts to close in together, right? Catch up with each other, and the red actually cross above the blue, right? That gives you the additional confirmation that, hey, potentially I think C limited, right? Potentially we are looking at a reversal, right? But at this point in time, I would say not yet, right? Not yet, because if prices is unable to hold above that $100 psychological level, what could potentially happen would be, again, all same thing. It could just be kind of like trending sideways in the range from about the $76, $75, $76 to about the $100 range over like the past couple of months. All right, so that would be a very quick one for C limited, right? We don't want to buy when, there is not as much confirmation. Now, we want to be on the right side of the trend and to buy in on strength. Okay, so that would be for C limited. I'll pass the time back over to Joey to cover the next Singapore stock.
All right, thank you so much. Let's move on to the next one. And I think a few of you were asking about this stock. Okay, and that would be NOK. I think that would be Nokia. All right, Nokia. Okay, where is the comment? I just put it out. Nafu, hi guys, can you share on NOK got in at $12? Okay, now it's 12.07. So actually still okay, right? But seems to be dropping from the sector sell-off. Time to cut loss. or actually accumulate. That means go and buy some more. All right. So I'm not too sure, Nafu, when you got in at $12, is it like last night kind of thing, or is it like in like May, you know, when it was like, you know, going up, then you got in, right? So I'm not too sure, because last night also got $12, then rebound a bit, right? So if it's like somewhere in April, May, and then you got in, you rode the upside, I think that's okay. But if you would have got in now, okay, I would say a little bit more cautious, Let me just go ahead to turn on the bullish and bearish signals. Let's take a look. Pump. There we go, all right? So we actually got some bullish signals coming out right over here. That was like in December, all right, very strong 1 GT bullish signal coming out. In March, a second 1 GT bullish signal coming out. So I mean, you've gone in there great, right? All the way up, and finally, just a few weeks back, we got a red bearish signal. So when we see a red bearish signal, we don't want to enter. I mean, just want to be more cautious. Don't need to be so kanjiong, and want to enter, you know, scared you'll miss out. I think just a bit more patient, a bit more patient, maybe a bit more, you know, get the reversal confirmation. You want to see some strength, you want to see some stability, and then we enter. So that's why the question, like when you enter at $12, is it like over here in April kind, or is it like yesterday? Right? You tell me in April, then I think no problem, because that one, you know, we got bullish signals, the green line still pointing up. No problem. But you tell me you enter over the like yesterday or past 1-2 weeks, then by right, should not lah, because it's a bit weaker already. You've got a bearish signal. Look at the green line. Also turning down, right? So short-term trend is down, bearish signal is out. It's not stabilized yet. Right? The selling may not be over, right? May not be over, right? So that is for Nokia, right? And okay, I think there's a lot of you asking about it as well. Catherine, right? Catherine, you bought at $15.40. Okay, so slightly higher. Maybe right over here. Well, I think maybe going right over here in June, somewhere over here. We broke down, we got a bearish signal, all right? So some at a loss. Not sure if I should sell out totally, please advise. So my take is this. I think, you know, the fact that we got a bearish signal, it just means that a bit of short-term weakness have came back. Support, what I don't like is that we have also gone below this $13 support level over the past few days, right? You can see $13 was where we rebounded, but the past 1 week, you cannot take it anymore. You went below that $13. So that's where a bit of weakness I think more selling have came back. All right, we are trying to push even lower, a new low. And obviously, as I mentioned, the green line also pointing down. It was like up, flat, and now down. So right now, if you ask me, I think that Nokia is like where the short term is still weak. All right, the longer term trend is fine. I mean, look at longer term trend. Longer term trend is the red and the blue line, right? So 100 days moving average pointing up, blue 200 days moving average pointing up. So red above the blue, no problem. So long term trend is up. However, the short term trend is unfortunately down, right? So we still don't want to get in, even though the longer term trend is up. We want to wait for both of them to be at least up, or maybe the short term trend stop pointing down and maybe flatten out. That would be better, right? So I think, you know, if we stay below $13 because of this bearish signal, because the green line is still turning down, if we stay below $13, unfortunately, not so good. All right, what could be the next support level? It could go all the way. I mean, I'm not saying that will happen now, but I mean the downside move to the next potential support level could be anything from $9. I mean, $9 is where we were trading below, right? Somewhere in March. You see a bit of resistance. We broke above it, all the way up. So $9, maybe all the way to $11. I mean, that could be where hopefully some bargain hunting actually comes back again. All right, and you can see that when we were to hit to these zones right over here, it's in between the longer term moving averages. It's in between the red and the blue line, right? So that's where we are pulling back to a very attractive buy zone, looking at the longer term. All right, and that's where, you know, a lot of bargain hunting can potentially come back again. All right over here near the longer term moving averages, right? So it could be $9, it could be 11. All right, I'm not too sure exactly where it is, but you know, I think basically it will stay below 13, then not so good. It's still weak. All right, we could see maybe a bit of weakness. Maybe if $12 were to give way tonight, you know, we can push lower. If $11 gives way, 9 and 10 could be very well possible. All right, so we try not to rush in. On dips, just to accumulate. All right, I think we like Nafu, you're asking whether should accumulate. I think cut loss, yeah, that will be an option. I mean, by right, if you have a plan to reduce some exposure, get out. Okay, definitely not to accumulate more until we see some stability, until we see more stability in Nokia. All right, so Nokia, I mean, it's a very good name. I've not really covered this stock before, but based on what I'm looking at right now, it just looks a bit weaker lah. All right, and it reminds me of the Nokia handphone that my very first Nokia handphone that I had, like, more than 20 years back. All right, that was like the Nokia 3310 and stuff, right? So wow, finally Nokia also not too bad. I think maybe they're a bit of an AI play, a bit of a tech play as well. Very strong rally, but unfortunately, short-term selling has came back. Okay, Ken, so let me pass on the mic to Bervin to cover the next US stock.
All right, thanks, Joey. Okay, here we go. I think Aaron was asking about this. Good morning, Joey and team. I bought Intel at 143, but had dropped to 120 as of last night. Do I sell to cut losses or hold for a rebound? I think Jenny also bought Intel recently. Bought Intel at 130. All right, Aaron, hopefully you're still here. I have Intel on the screen right now. I think Intel had finally woken up. First in the first quarter of the year. Woken up a little bit, pushed higher. We saw 2-1 GT bullish signals, right? Pump. Then prices started to move up higher, right? From the second 1 GT bullish signal all the way to today, that is about 143% in returns already. All right, so now you have bought at about 143. All right, 143, probably bought at the high within the last few weeks in June. All right, so as of last night, we saw prices falling below that $130 support. What does the 100 days, 200 days moving average look like, right? Since it has woken up, it's still looking not too bad, right? 20 days moving average flattened out a little bit from that profit taking that came in last night and then the night before as well. But we are still pretty much kept above a psychological support. Still holding above a psychological support. So that's still not too bad. 20 days moving average still shows that, it is flattening out a little bit. At least it's not pointing down. Next thing, you don't want to see the 20 days moving average pointing down, $100 being tested, right? Could be a temporary weakness. Where profit taking came in broadly across the market yesterday. So not many counters were spared. Not many tech counters specifically were spared from that sell-off. So I think this could be, potentially a level across the next few days where buyers could potentially come in as well. So if I were to draw a temporary support here right around that 120 level, I think you might want to set up some alerts just below this 120 level, just to get yourself alerted if that selling continues, and then potentially you may see weakness downwards to that $100 level. But I think right now, if we are able to retake that $130 level, that 20 days moving average will then start to point up again. Then we could head back to that consolidation phase between that 130 upwards to about that 140 level, where prices have consolidated since the mid of June. So I think so far, still okay for Intel. I'm not really too worried. We still have a 1 GT bullish signal right there. Just take note that if prices fall below that $120 level, you may want to enact a stop limit order either just below this support or below that trailing. The trailing support right now very close to that $100 psychological level, just for you to take note. All right, so Jenny, I think you probably also bought more recently at about $130 level. I think yesterday selling may have caused a little bit of alarm for most people because a lot of the prices have dropped quite quickly. So it's very normal to feel this way when prices fall very quickly. But I think we don't have to make rush or very rash moves until we see further confirmation. But as long as your stop limit levels or your stop loss levels are in place already, your trading plan is already in place, stick to the plan. You want to be able to see prices then consolidate. You should never expect prices to just go higher and higher and higher and higher every day. Then that's not a normal way out. There's not a healthy consolidation, or there's no healthy uptrend being formed at the same time. All right, so I think we always want to look at prices when we get in. All right, so at a 130 level, I think that was a pretty good entry. 143, yes, maybe just slightly above the buy zone, but I think that's still not too bad, because why? I believe you had gotten some confirmations before getting in as well, looking at the 20 days moving average, 100 days moving average, the support and the resistance. Or if you have no idea what I'm talking about, then I think you could actually go and check out Joey's webinar. All right, it's happening on the 4th of August, 7:30 p.m. I think the link will be in the chat. You can click on it to find out a little bit more on how we look for entries and the confirmations that we actually look for entry. But just on the glance right here, I would say your entry is, both your entries actually look fine. All right, entry looks fine. It's just whether you have a trading plan going forward to see where prices could be potentially headed to. So I've drawn previously the higher target of $160 for Intel. We're still quite far away from it. All right, but that could be a higher target that you could set as well. So a couple of alerts, all right? One alert below the 120 level, another alert maybe above the $130 level to just get yourself alerted when buyers take control again. Then the last alert may be close to that $160 level, 158, 159, if you are looking to also take some profit. All right, so I think to answer your question in short, Aaron, do I sell to cut loss or hold for a rebound? I think right now you could potentially hold for a rebound, but don't rule out the possibility of selling if that 120 level is broken, maybe 117, 118, that could be a level where, you know, potentially a stop loss also could be placed. All right, so I think that is for Intel. Still looking not too bad for now. I'll pass the time to Z to cover the next requested stock. Z?
All right, thanks, Bervin. Okay, the next requested stock will be by Li Ming, right? Li Ming, I hope you're still here. Good morning, Joey and team. Can cover LLY, bought at 1190. Chart looking bullish with 1 GT sign triggered. So I think Li Ming actually have these 1 GT signals whereby he can you can see yourself, right? I think you're right? There's 1 GT bullish signal triggered. So for the rest of those who are here with us, right? I think about 140 of you who are here. If you don't have these signals, right, and you want to have these signals, right, you can actually test drive it for free, right? I think Joey has actually kindly have a 1 GT LITE trial indicator so that you can actually trial it for like 14 days, right, for free at no additional cost, like, and then you can, like us, same thing, turn on and turn off the signals on your own to see on your trading view chart. But of course, the LITE indicator, right, doesn't have the more advanced function, like, you know, the ones that we see, like trading support, you know, position sizing, all of this. But it is a good start for you to actually play around with the indicator, right, to see and how can it help you with your trading plan. All right, okay, so let's go back to Li Ming's LLY, right? Let's take a look at this. Okay, so for LLY, Li Ming mentioned that chart is looking bullish, 1 GT signs triggered, which I actually agree, right? It's actually starting to look pretty bullish. Why? Because the first thing that I always go back to the basic, which is the trend, right? We always talk about the trend, and Joey's framework and basis always revolve around the trend, whereby we want to buy in an uptrend, not in a downtrend, right? And take a look at the moving average. Green, is it pointing up? Yes. Red, actually it was pointing up, it goes sideways, down a little bit, flatten out. Now, is it starting to show some signs of it pointing back up slightly? Yes. Blue, it was actually going up, then flatten out a bit. Now, pointing up, yeah, it's still pointing up, right? So I would agree that in terms of the trend, it's starting to show some strength, right? And price action-wise is also telling us the same thing. Why? Because you can see that from November last year, 2025, prices actually tested this level, which is what level is this? 1,100, right? 1,100 psychological level here, tested multiple times as a resistance, but unable to break through, right? You can see like from November, December, January, February, until March, cannot break through. Bears came in to control, push price back down again. We started to see some short-term weakness once again, 20 days moving average pointing down. But buyers came in, right? And it rebounded. And it was here, right? I think it was somewhere in the early of June, right? Here it start to test again. Go back and test this 1100, but force break came back down, went up. Buyers came in again, pushed price back up, tested it again the other time. I think not too long ago, right? I think middle to end of June, somewhere around here, right? But managed to hold, right? Buyers managed to hold above this level and continue to push price up to where we are at. Yes, so it closed yesterday at 1213, right? So Li Ming bought at 1190. Okay, so definitely you are sitting on some profits, right? You're sitting on some profits now. So Then, of course, when you're sitting on some profits, now it's looking bullish. I think usually the very common question that people would have is, then potentially where should I take profits, right? Should I continue to hold? Should I sell? Where are some of the levels that I should be looking at, right? So that is a very normal and valid question. Okay, so let me try to answer that, all right? So right now, if I were to zoom all the way back up, definitely LRY is at all-time high. I don't have a previous price like to say, where is the potential resistance, right? So when this actually happens, what can we do, or how can we actually, project a potential resistance level? Number one, we can use a projection, right? So if I were to use a projection like so, right, you see price actually broke above the 1100, right? And you can see right over here, right, this couple of weeks, it was actually testing this about 1175 right over here, right? About this 1175 multiple times, long upper shadow came in, push prices back down, right? So I would say that 1175 around here, right, there was some sort of temporary resistance, right? But eventually it broke above it with this extremely bullish candlestick and tested it again, you see, with lower shadows. So this 1175, I would say, would be so-called the immediate higher support to potentially take note of, right? So based on this, I could have a range right over here, right? And if I were to project it up, can you see that the next upside target is around 1250? That is a psychological level, right? But otherwise, the next upside target we can also use based on a psychological resistance, right? So psychological resistance, round nice number could be like, 1,300, 1,400, 1,500. Those are the levels that we can also take note of in terms of where potentially selling pressure could come in, because usually those round nice numbers are where people like to place their orders at, right? So the next upside target, there's nothing wrong. Perhaps near the 1250, right, we could potentially see some selling pressure returning based on the projection that we just did, right? The next upside target based on a psychological round nice number, right, would be potentially 1,300, right? So that those two, right, are levels whereby perhaps Living or the rest of you who are holding LY, right, could set some price alert on, right? Because if prices were to reach maybe 1300, you want to take some partial profits. Is it okay? I think perfectly okay lah. Nothing wrong to take some profits near the resistance zone, like what we always say, right? But the key here is also make sure to manage your downside, because for this counter, you can see that over the past like couple of years or even 1 year, right, you can see the price, right, sometimes it can be quite volatile, right? So make sure to manage and protect your downside, especially with earnings that is, coming up in the next month, right? I think, 1 month later, about 5th of August. And if I were to turn on this thing called the trailing support, which Joey showed right at the start, right, when analyzing the market, this trailing support, to have a refresher, right, it is a dynamic support when it moves along with the price action. So you can see that price move up, this trailing support also move up. And can you see that this trailing support, right, it actually, there's some space, right, between the candlestick and this green trailing support line that I just turned on, right, because it accounts for the stock volatility, right? And you can see that this trailing support now, after accounting for the stock volatility, is very close to this horizontal, the support, right, that I've drawn, which is around the 1100. It is very, very close to that level, right? So it actually gives you a confirmation that around this level, maybe if prices comes back and break below this level, perhaps not so good. Perhaps you might want to have, a plan in place, right? If let's say you want to reduce some exposure, I think nothing wrong to do that as well, because if prices break below a horizontal support and also a trailing support whereby you already account for the stock volatility, right, then nothing wrong to actually have a plan, right, to reduce some exposure as well, right? But I think overall at this point in time, definitely still looking pretty bullish based on what we have just covered, right? Moving averages, trend, price action, higher support being found, bullish signals appearing as well. All right. So, Li Ming, I hope that helps to give you some levels, right, to think about in terms of the upside target and also where potentially can you manage the downside. All right. So that would be for LY. I'll pass my time back over to Joey to cover the next Singapore stock.
All right, thank you so much, Z. All right, so not too bad, right? LLY, one of the healthcare plays. All right, as I mentioned, the healthcare sector has been doing relatively well compared to the technology sector. So I think that's where at least we're seeing strength in certain stocks like LLY, Ally, Lilly and Company. All right, okay. Now let's go on to the next stock, and I think one of you asking about it, Catherine. Okay, let's see, LRCX, right? And I believe that would be Lam Research Corporation, right? Okay, LRCX average cost at $368. So I think you probably got in a few times. Average price you got in is $368. Okay, pretty okay entry. I think over the past 1-2 weeks, we're right around 368. We went to near 4. So I think 440 would be a bit of a resistance. We went there, market a bit weaker, we pull back again. All right, but I think 368 would be a pretty okay entry, pretty okay entry, right? Don't know if you can go up further. Okay, very good. So you got in now 368. Now it went to 351. Okay, so let's see what could be the potential outlook for this particular stock, right? So this is LUM Research. So you can see that for LUM Research, well, in like January, February, March, well, the short-term trend, it was like up, started to actually go sideways. So we were pretty much just like, consolidating sideways, I would say, right below the 250. I think, yeah, maybe about 250. 250 would be a very key resistance level that we touched. We came down, finally went above 250. And what happened? Started to move up, right? So it was a bit of a sideways consolidation, okay? And then after that, when it broke 250, look at the green line, started to move all the way up, all right? And this is where we are right now. So let's take a look at the green 20 days moving average line, all right? Is it still up? Or maybe a bit flattening out, which is, I think is correct, because as I say, a bit of resistance that came out around $440. So the green line that was like going up started to flatten out just a little bit, just at the beginning, all right, over the past 1 to 2 days. But if you look at the long-term trend, look at the red and the blue line, both pointing up. So long-term trend, not bad. In fact, I think this is one of those pretty stable, right, pretty strong fundamentally, I would say, tech stock that you could play as well, a bit of a semiconductor play as well, all right? But of course, as the market sold off, it pulled back a little bit from that resistance level, okay? But let's go to turn on what we call the bullish and bearish signal to see what it says. Pump. And there we go, right? So we got bearish signals popping out in January, in March, right? So when we see bearish signal, you got to be patient, don't want to rush, right? Down, wait for it, pump, 2. 1 GT bullish signals coming out, there we go, all the way out. Well, I don't see any like bearish red color signal out right now. So I think nothing too concerned about, but if I can draw some support for you, I would say that right now, 350 will be what we call a pretty decent horizontal support. It used to be a resistance. Look at this, right? In like June, we touched about 3-4 times, came back down. And finally, when we broke 350, it went all the way to 440, 450, right? So very strong rally all the way up. And then over the past few days, as the market weakened, we put back again, right? And now we are 351, right? Which is like just $1 above 350, right? So thankfully we're still above it, right? So I think as long as you stay above 350, still okay. But if you want to get a bit more confirmation, what we could do is to turn on the trailing support, right? Trailing support. Okay, let me just turn it on, remove the moving averages, and let's take a look, right? So you can see that this trailing support, when we got the bullish signals popping out in April, right? Every time we near the trailing support, so this trailing support, I think Z mentioned as well, right? It follows the stock as it moves up, right? It accounts for the volatility of a stock, right? You give it the space to move freely, right? A bit of sell down is fine one, no problem, right? Because we give you space to sell down also, no problem, right? But you don't sell down too much until you go below it, then not so good, right? So a bit of pullback is fine. Look at this, a bit of a pullback and then go higher. A bit of pullback, it go higher. Right? In fact, somewhere in June, we pull back and then we go higher, right? So now you can see, right? Indeed, over the past few days, like, yeah, same thing, a bit of pullback. So now a bit of a pullback and we are like right near the trailing support, which I would say, 340. So we are right. I mean, you can see previously also we near it and then we rebound, near it, rebound. So now we are near it, right? Whether we rebound, I really don't know, right? But I mean, I think it looks quite attractive as well. I think the next few days, so don't say 350 let's say 340 I think maybe 340 to 350 I think if we can stay above this 340, 350 next 2 days, all right, nearing it, like what we see previously you can see we near it, and then we a few days hold above, all right, 1 day we got a bullish candle coming out, 3 days held above, right? So same thing, if we see next 2 days holding above 340, 350, a couple of bullish reversal candlestick appearing over here, that would be a bit of signs of strength again. That would be what can lead that same, reversal, like what we've seen previously, all right, all the way up, right? That could also lead the reversal all the way up, maybe back to that 440 resistance level, All right, so back to your questions, Catherine. Catherine, I don't know if you can go up further. Well, I think you have to monitor. I think, of course, nobody knows whether it will break below the 340 or not, but if it does break below 340 and then a bit weaker, unfortunately, that's where I think more selling can come back short-term wise. It may pull back to 300 to 320. That could be the next support level. But if it holds above 340, right, good. That could be where it could be a really attractive opportunity as well. Like what we've seen from previous pullback, as it stays above the trailing support, and we in fact push even higher. Does it make sense, Bob? All right, so watch the 340, 350 level. I think those are pretty good buy support zones, all right, to see if they actually can hold. All right, so there's LUM research. Let me pass on the mic to Bervin to cover the next stock. Bervin?
All right, thanks, Joey. Okay, next stock, very quickly. Ellison, hopefully you're still here with us. Bought BE. I believe you are referring to Bloom Energy at 293 last night. It dropped to 271. Can continue to buy and average down. Okay, let's take a look at the trend for Bloom Energy. I think Bloom Energy, not too bad. All right, first glance, not too bad. Let me just zoom out a little bit here. I think since the start of this year, the moves has been quite good. And one thing that really stands out to me is it forms a really healthy uptrend, right? It consolidates a little bit, hits up higher, not really consolidating much. And right now, we are again in another consolidation phase. All right, so we bought at 293. So probably either in the late of May or most recently, right? You bought it and probably held on it for a while. Most recently, we have a 1GT bearish signal that came out, right? As the selling took place when we are not able to break above that $350 resistance. A bit of selling pressure, profit taking came in, found a little bit of a support. All right, found a support at that $240 level, which is where I had drawn that buy zone. All right, so support and resistance are sometimes zones also, right? They're not exact numbers, not 240.56 or something like that. It could be within a zone. Why? Is because there is some subjectivity towards it. So when Z draws and Joey draws, the levels can be different, but they will be around that price range. So that we always use a zone, we always use a range. Right? So right now, I would say prices are very, very close to a buy zone, the support zone. Right? The 20 days moving average is slightly pointing down, but it has been showing a little bit of a whipsaw movement, just going up and down for a while. Very similar to the price, right? But the longer term moving average still looks good, right? The 100 days, 200 days, both are still sloping up. That is what you want to see. We got a 1GT bearish signal. I think previously we had the same as well. We had the same thing happen as well. 1GT bullish followed by 1GT bearish and then 1GT bullish as well. Same thing that happened. Could be the signs of a consolidation phase that is taking place. Right, consolidation pattern that is taking place. So what we want to do in a consolidation pattern? Right, listen, you're thinking whether you should continue to buy and average down. I wouldn't want to buy on that nearer term weakness. Right, 270, 293. Honestly, not too much difference in your cost price, even in fact. Right, if you see a little bit of consolidation closer to that 240 level, and that longer term uptrend is still intact. Right, closer consolidation, maybe prices look something like this, right? Just on the slightly lower level, and you want to get in for a little bit more. As long as the longer term trend looks intact, I think that makes sense. But I think on the immediate weakness, you want to get in. I think maybe that is rushing it a little bit. You don't want to be rushing in to buy. You still got 1GT bearish signal. That means if I were to turn on the trailing support and resistance line, there is a trailing resistance. Let prices consolidate for a while, and then what's going to happen? That trailing resistance will start to fall as well. Sorry, my drawing not very good, but that trailing resistance will start to fall as well alongside with the prices consolidating close to a support level. The other point where you can actually consider, instead of using average down, we try averaging upwards. Right, so hold on to your position. Because everything still looks not too bad so far. We still have that key support level 240 still holding. Underneath it, you maybe want to have a stop limit order, but by having a plan to maybe even average up, meaning to say if prices are able to see a breakout above that 350 resistance level. Confirmation means prices break and hold above that 350 level. then maybe you can even consider to buy more, accumulate on strength. Now you're accumulating on strength, you can target or you can have even a higher target, which I've drawn to about $425 to maybe about $430. That's where maybe you can expect some profit taking to even come in as well. I think so far, I think averaging down in the immediate sense may not be the most ideal situation. Like you may continue to expect a little bit more volatility in the next week because nobody is able to tell you whether where the market is going to be going next week. We have to wait and see. But at least you have a plan now. When prices come down, what you're going to do, you're going to stop your losses. And when prices head up higher, you can even buy more, right? Build on that position, that winning position of yours. Okay, so there is a very quick one for Bloom Energy. Passing the time back to Z to cover the next requested stock. Z?
All right, thanks, Bervin. Okay, so the next requested stock will be by Derek, right? So Derek, I hope you are still here. Hi, Joey and team. Can I find out these stock tickers are good entry currently? So you give us 3 stock, right? SYM, IREN, and TCOM. So I had a quick glance, all 3, right? So unfortunately, all 3 of them, none of them is actually in the uptrend, right? So I had to pick the lesser of the 2 evil, right? So if you go and quickly take a look at SYM and TCOM, they are in very, very strong downtrend, which typically we don't really want to think about entry, right? So balance, we left with IREN, right? IREN at least if I were to look at it right now, the downtrend is not strong in a sense whereby if you go and compare to SYM and TCOM, you can see very clearly everything is pointing down, right? For these right now, potentially what we could be seeing would be maybe a longer term sideways consolidation. Why? Because you can see that the red and the blue line, right, is flattening out, right? And actually the red cross below the blue line are not so good. We also got 1 GT bearish signal, also actually not so good. So if you were to ask me to really pick one of these stock, maybe IREN, right? But need to have a downside management plan in place. But just to let you know, there are a lot of stocks out there that are in an uptrend that you can also potentially look at as well. Okay, so let's talk about IREN, right? And some of the levels that perhaps if you really, really want to go in, can take note of some of these levels. If the level is broken, then perhaps that's where you want to have your risk management plan in place. All right. So for IREN, right now, I think as of last night, it closed at about 38.82, right? 38.82, right, over here. And you can see I've drawn these 2 lines, right, pretty clearly, right? Number 1 will be this $30 psychological support level, right? And the other one, like what Bervin mentioned, right, I think just now he was talking about the lines, right, and the zones that we all draw will be around the same, right? It's not exactly the same, but it's around that zone, right? And I think that will be around, maybe somebody will draw at 70, maybe some will draw at 72, some will draw at 75. I think around that 70 to about 75, right? This would be what we call a resistance zone right over here, right? So you can see there's a support, there's a resistance, and since last year, October, right, that means Q4 of 2025, you can see prices went up, came down, here attempting to go up, never even reached, right, 70, came down again. Buyers came in around the $30 again at the support, went up beyond the previous high, which is okay, right, which is okay, go up to test the $70, now come back down again. So it seems to be just kind of like going in a sideways consolidation phase, and the moving averages is also telling us the same thing, because you can see that it started to flatten out even more, right? And it's just going sideways, at least not going down yet compared to the other 2 stocks that you give, right? But at this point in time, we do see some short-term weakness. So that's something that you got to be a little bit more cautious of, because we have a 1 GD bearish signal and the 20 days moving average is pointing down. Can it still continue to point down? Definitely, right? If the price cannot hold above this $30, do you think the 20 days moving average will continue to point down? For sure, it will continue to point out, right? And perhaps the red and the blue line may also start to see some signs of it sloping down as well. But now, not yet, right? So if you were to ask me, can it hold above the $30? I don't know, right? That's the key level that perhaps you want to monitor and watch for, right? And you are thinking, then maybe this one potentially can do some range trading, sideways trading. I think yes, but I think we are also, I think the key thing is, to watch for some signs of confirmation, whereby what do we want to see is for 20 days moving average to at least stop pointing down, maybe head sideways a bit, right? You can see right over here, start to head sideways, and then we got a bullish signal, right? Price rebounded from this $30, another bullish signal come up, then perhaps that could be also a potential zone of entry that you could be looking at, right? Have some confirmation in place to have a higher conviction trade, right? Not saying that right now, sideways you cannot trade, you can trade, but it's just that you want to have more confirmation rather than just buying, right, because you think that, hey, I think this one now not too bad, and you FOMO or you scared the prices, go up too much and things like that, right? But have a plan in place, right? Have a plan in place, because if prices cannot hold above these $30, that is where potentially you might also want to think about your downside risk management plan, right? Where would you want to potentially place your stop limit order to manage your downside risk? Because if prices were to break this $30, very likely, I think we'll have another 1GD bearish signal. And you can see right over here, right? Previously, prices was like what? I think at the $9, $10 range right over here for so many months, right? So potentially that's the downside that we could be looking at if this $30 is broken. All right, Derek? So those are the levels that perhaps, to give you something to think about, set some alert, have a trading plan in place if you really do want to play with this counter. Okay, so that would be for IREN. I'll pass the time back over to Joey to cover the next Singapore stock. Sorry, the US stock, not Singapore stock, US stock.
Correct. Thank you so much, Z. All right, so let's move on to the next US stock, okay, which I just pretty much looked through just now, and that would be by Andy. Andy, I hope you're still over here. Andy Chang. All right, Andy Chang. All right, okay. Bought KTOS at 57.50. Let me just go to pull up my chart. And there we go. All right, so later I'll go to analyze it, but let's take a look at what you're asking, okay? You bought KTOS, I believe that will be KTOS Defense and Security Solutions. All right, I've never heard of this stock before, all right, but KTOS. You bought it at 57.50. It is 55 now. Yeah, correct. Last night it closed 55.35, okay? Been going down, but had a good spike the last 2 days. Indeed, right? Past 2-3 days, like went up a bit. Good to hold on longer term or sell when break even. Okay, can help analyze the trend. All right, very good. Let's go to take a look at KTOS Defense. Okay, so this is KTOS Defense. I would say that for KTOS Defense, I'll tell you what, let me just go to turn on the 1GT bullish and bearish signals in 2 seconds to see what we can see. 1, 2, 3, pump. Wow. There we go, right? What do you guys think about KTOS Defense? Is it a good stock to buy? I mean, is it a good stock to buy? Let me know, guys. Let me know. Why for yes and for no? Why for yes and for no? Let's help Andy out together, right? Based on what I've turned on, I think you guys can see for yourself as well. Right? What do you guys think about KTOS? A good stock to think about entering, or maybe not? Right? Maybe wait first. Let me know in the chat. Right, let's see. Not interested. No. Sideways now. No. Probably no for now. All right. So I think not now. No as well. Probably not now. I think that's what some of you are saying as well. Okay, and I can see why you guys are saying that. In fact, that's my sentiment as well. The reason why I think all of you are saying that is because we actually got three. Not one. Three. 1, 2, 3, red color bearish signal coming out, right? And it came out since it was $110. Okay, so whenever we get not one but 2, 3 bearish signal coming out, the trend is pretty much down only. It's more selling coming back from 110. We go to 90, 90 to 80, 80 to 70, 60, now become 50. All right, so it's just a bit weaker already. So we try not to buy on a downtrend. We try not to buy because it's cheap. I mean, it's definitely cheaper than in January. It was like 120 right now, confirmed cheaper than January, almost, in fact, more than half price. But we don't buy into cheapness. All right, we buy into strength. Okay, so that's the first thing. We probably don't want to buy into stock like this. Okay, and if you take a look at the green 20 days moving average line, well, the green 20 days moving average line was like down and then flat, then down and then flat, then now it's like down and then maybe flat a bit. I don't know, right? But it's not up lah. Make sense? All right, so we try not to buy. We got bearish signals plus the short-term trend also down flat, right? So not so strong lah, not so strong. Okay. Now another thing would be if you look at the long-term trend, right? Long-term trend. So if you look at the long-term trend, well, that's what we want to be careful as well, because you mentioned just now that good to hold on longer term or sell when break even. I would prefer for you to take some profit, get out. All right. If you hit to certain levels, I'll talk about the levels later. But if you say hold on longer term, but the longer term is down, how do you hold on longer term? I mean, if the longer term is up, nice, no problem. Okay, good. Then you hold on longer term to rightfully. But as what I'm saying right now, the longer term trend, look at the red 100 days moving average line, has crossed below the blue line, right? So longer term trend has turned down, unfortunately, over the past 1-2 months. Right, so that's where it's not about holding longer term. Longer term trend is down unless you want to hold all the way down, and then you hold longer term down. Does it make sense? Because the longer term trend is down. All right, so probably not want to hold longer term because the longer term trend is down, right? That's the first thing. To sell when break even, well, I would say we are pretty much seeing, I think, this resistance right over here. So where could be a level to take some profit? I think this $70 is quite important now. I mean, look at this, right? $70 was where we were, right over here. Rebound, a bit of a support. It broke the resistance, rebound. Over here, we went below it all the way down, right? So resistance turns support, and now it is a resistance again, right? So now, I mean, thankfully, it rebounded a little bit, but let's take note, because the longer term trend is down, bearish signals are still in play. We could potentially see selling coming back again. I don't know where, but anything 60 and above, 60 to 70, right over here, all right? I think that is where potentially some profit taking can come back again, all right? Sellers may regain control again, and we may see a bit of a pullback. So that's what we're seeing, right? Down, flat, down, up a bit, down even more, up a bit, maybe down even more. I don't know, up a bit, down even more. I don't know, right? But seems like this is what he's doing, up a bit, then down even more, up a bit, then down even more, right? So now agree it's up for 2-3 days, but just take note once it approaches certain level, anything above 60 to 70. In fact, I think yesterday, I think it went up to near 60, then people start to sell already, right? So I don't know, maybe not even above 60. I think maybe near 60, selling pressure could be coming back because it is just more down than up for now. Does it make sense? All right, so that is for KTOS. We probably wouldn't want to buy a stock like this because everything seems to be pointing down, and we might see 1, 2, 3 days of going up. Then you might feel a bit happy. You think it's going to go up forever, but sellers might come back again. We could push lower again, and that's what we're seeing over the past 5 to 6 months. All right. Now, if you ask me, then when should we think about getting in? Okay, so if you look at it like previously last year, no problem. If you tell me like over here last year, all right, April and May, we got 1, 2, 3 bullish signals. Well, another one come out. I would say go ahead. No problem. All right. Why? Look at the red and blue. Long-term trend up. Green line also pointing up. 1, 2, 3, 4 bullish signal come out. Go ahead. That one, no problem. That one, you think you want to write the long-term or short-term, I say go ahead. No problem, right? Because if you have done it, 216%. Does it make sense, right? Then bearish signal come out, you get out, take some profit, all right? Wait for a time to get back in again, and you can see when we got bullish signals appearing again in like December, up again, all right? Get out when you see a bearish one. Of course, when the bearish one comes out, get out, take some profit. Don't go and get in and buy some more, because you can see down, all the way down. Does it make sense, all right? So that will be Kratos defense. I hope that helps, right? Probably want to be more careful. Probably try to get out, take some profit if it does rebound back to near 60 or maybe to 65 to 70. I think that's where some heavy selling can potentially appear again. All right, Andy, I hope that helps. That will be for KTOS. Now, let me pass on the mic to Bervin to cover the next US stock. Bervin?
All right. Okay, let's go for the next stock. I think right here I saw one that I wanted to cover. Jenny Velo. Right, it's a good entry for TSM, please. Thanks. Okay. So I think TSM was one of the stocks that have been moving up quite well. Let me just remove everything right here. We can see the new levels. Okay. Let me just zoom out for TSM. Since April of 2025 up to now, prices have moved from the $100 range upwards to that $400 range already. Even in start of this year, right? Prices were at the $300 over range. Now it's also at the $400 over range. So I think for TSM, it has shown or demonstrated very firm, very stable uptrend. It's one of those stocks that has held up very, very well, even in those pullbacks. It is in general still very much in play. Right, it's not moving as fast as those high memory bandwidth stocks, but it is still part of the entire ecosystem, right? It's one of those stocks that is at the manufacturing side of things, right? They still demonstrate very, very good strength. Even yesterday or the day before, the selling pressure actually came back as prices were testing that $475 all-time high. Right, so it came back from the all-time high. Could this be an opportunity for you to get in on the dips? I think that's what Jenny actually wants to know. Right, so I would say the immediate support, right, the immediate temporary support would be right around that $425 level. All right, yesterday prices closed at about $434. So I think we are very, very close to the buy zone already, perhaps maybe even in the buy zone. But what happens, I think, is if this support doesn't hold up, I think the next support level or next key support level will be right around that $390 level upwards, so maybe even that $400 psychological level. This was where previously was a resistance. All right, prices broke above it in April, had a 1 GT bullish signal, prices consolidated close to this level, came back down, consolidated to it one more time. Right, so this could be a very, very key support level that I think many people are hoping that prices hit towards that level so that they can get in. I think as of right now, I think it's hard to say if prices were to be able to hit down towards that level, but at least we can see very firmly, very clearly that the longer term trend has been pretty much been intact all the way since July of 2025. All right, August, July of 2025, that was when the uptrend has started to form, and it's still within that higher phase. Right, so we also have additional confirmations that there are higher highs that are being formed as well. So those are signs that the longer term trend is still very, very good. It's still very intact as of now, but we have nearer term weakness. And so these are the stocks that you want to consider. Add into your watch list. You want to have it. You want to have some alerts within those buy zones. All right, Jenny. You want to have some alerts maybe closer to that 425, maybe 430. You want to have some alerts come in. Take a look at the prices. Take a look at the price action to see if you could potentially give yourself a window for opportunity for an entry. All right, so I want to just turn on that trailing support and resistance. Right there, you can see the trailing support shows up. I think multiple times you have said this, and moves up as prices have started to move up. All right, the trailing support gives the stock room to breathe. So right now we are still very much above that trailing support. Some people would like to accumulate very close to that trailing support as well. Maybe that 400 to upwards to about that $415 level. That could be where we start to see buyers start to come in as well. But nobody can tell you, like I said, if price is going to be heading down towards that $400 level for you to buy. So I think right now, in the nearer term at least, let's monitor the 425 to upwards to about $430 level. The nearer term upside would be right around that 475 level. And definitely, if you ask me what's the next higher target, I would just very simply draw that psychological level as $500 first. That could be where potentially sellers would like to actually come in to actually take some profits, right? Like previously it happened before, closer towards that resistance, we start to see sellers come in. Even at a 475 level, you start to see sellers come in. So if you want to take some profit, or those of you guys who have also held on to TSM for a while, could be sitting on some profits, you want to take some profits closer towards that resistance level, I think you should not be afraid to do so. Then when prices come back down, not be afraid to get back in again, as long as that longer term trend looks good. So I think we have covered TSM multiple times, also in our monthly newsletter, which I think is releasing next Monday. So I think that is for clients as well. So for clients, if you have received our newsletter in the past few months or the past few years, you have definitely seen TSM as well. So just like to find out here, since we are on the topic, how many of you guys are actually clients of Joey's in Phillip Securities? Or if you do not know, Joey is a remiser or broker in Phillip Securities as well. So if you need a trading account to trade, right? Even the Singapore market, US market, you need a trading account to trade, right? So you can actually find out a little bit more on how to be a client of Joey's under Phillip Securities by clicking on the link in the chat as well. All right. So I think that is a very quick one for TSM. Joey, would you like to add on anything?
Yeah, definitely. I think Bervin mentioned about why how you can actually become a client of mine in Phillip Securities, right? But one thing he forgot to mention is why right? I mean, why should you even become a client of mine in Flip Securities, right? I mean, you can actually not be a client of mine in Flip Securities, but why do you want to become a client of mine in Flip Securities? Well, essentially, I think we have quite a lot of clients over here. Thank you so much for joining us, all right? Just want to acknowledge and thank all of you, all right, for your support. Catherine, Klein, Index as well, Klein, Victor, thank you so much. Well, those of you who are not yet a client, or why do you want to become a client in join us? Well, essentially, guys, as a client of mine in Flip Securities, right? I think I forget to mention this now as well. This is where we actually share some of those top Singapore ideas daily by WhatsApp live. All right, WhatsApp live daily, right, for free. You do not pay anything more, right? So, of course, you also get some of our private training videos, our articles that we create exclusive for our clients as well. So, if you are kind of like trading, I mean, you need a trading account lah. Also, if you don't actually get any of your service from your own broker, all right, and it's what we hear from many of our clients, right? They just log in and then they look at the platform, the mobile app, and then that's it lah. Nobody contact them, nobody call them, nobody WhatsApp them, no idea, no video, nothing lah. All right, got a hotline can 5-10 minutes you call, then probably somebody pick up a phone now. Huh? So if you are kind of like facing that kind of service, right, and then find out more, the link is right in the chat. Get some personalized service, right? You can contact us by WhatsApp, and that's where not just by WhatsApp, but also some of our top ideas daily for free on the very regular basis. So you know what stocks to focus on, what sectors to actually watch as well, right? So the link is right in the chat. Okay, Ken? Okay, very good. So let me pass on the mic just to Z to cover the next US stock. Z?
All right, thanks, Joey. Okay, let me just share my screen over here. Okay, so the next US stock, right, that I'll be covering will be this stock called LITE, Lumentum Holdings. Okay, maybe before I cover the stock, right, maybe let me just run through quickly like what are some of the stocks that we've already covered, right? Just so you guys know, and if you guys have any question about the stock, you can actually watch the replay later, right, when this live show end on YouTube. Okay, so Joey actually started off with the market updates, right? SPX and Dow Jones Index. And the very first stock that he covered today is MRVL Tech, okay, MRVL, followed by Netflix, right? Bervin covered Netflix as his first stock, and the first stock that I covered today was C Limited, okay? And then the fourth stock would be Nokia, followed by Intel, and then followed by Eli Lilly and Company. And then the next one would be Lam Research, Bloom Energy, IREN, KTOS Defense ETF, and Bervin has just covered Taiwan Semiconductor. So that is the 11th stock. So right now, for LITE Lumentum Holdings, that would be the 12th stock for today. Okay, so let's see. This comment is by YL4800, right? Got LITE at 878. Any chance to rebound next week? So to sell away, thanks. This is a question, right? That usually we always get a lot, right? Ask whether the price will actually rebound next week. So actually, if you ask me, you ask Bervin, you ask Joey, right? We don't know, right? We don't know whether the stock will rebound next week or not. Because if we know, right, we confirm tell you, hey, faster go and buy now. Next week rebound already, you can faster sell. But we don't know, right? We don't have the crystal ball to tell us all these predictions and things like that. But what we can do, right? What we can do is we can look at the chart, right? We can look at where are the potential support and the resistance. That actually gives us a better indication, like a probability, right? That potentially buyers could come in near those prices, sellers could come back near those resistance, right? But we won't know whether next week the price will go back out or not. Because if we know, we also won't be here already, right? Why would we be here if we know, right? But we don't know, right? Nobody knows, right? The thing is that nobody knows whether the price next week can rebound back up for you to sell, right? But we want to take a look at where are the support and the resistance now, right? So that at least it can help us to formulate a plan. And if prices were to go a certain way, what can we do? Okay, so right now for Lumentum Holdings, YL mentioned that you got in at 878, right? 878. Okay, so 878 yesterday price closed at 728. Okay, so now there is some losses, right? It's now sitting on some losses. And I think last night, right, we also see this thing, which is a 1 GT bearish signal. So not so good, right? But just to share with you guys, when we see a 1 GT bearish signal, it doesn't mean that the stock will crash, right? I think a lot of you guys who have attended this multiple times, right? You guys have heard of us saying this many times before. It doesn't mean that the stock will crash, but it tells us that there is more selling pressure returning to this stock. So that's where you want to be a bit more cautious, to be a bit more careful, especially if you're having some exposure. Perhaps it will be good for you to reduce some exposure. All right. So yesterday, 1 GD bearish signal come out. prices also break below this level, right? This $800 level. Actually, I should turn this to a red. Why? Because price is below this 800, and this 800 is essentially turned to what we call a resistance, right? Previously, from April all the way to end of June, this 800 was acting as a support level, right? You can see buyers came in here and prices rebounded, right? Multiple times. It just held above this $800 for at least 3 months, right? But unfortunately, yesterday it broke down. It broke down. We got one daily bearish signal, and right now, 20 days moving average, right, has actually also started to show some weakness over the past month from June to July, whereby you can see that the green line, right, has started to slope downwards, right? Which also tells us that selling pressure has returned, right? Selling pressure has returned, right? So that 800 has turned from a support to become the immediate resistance, right? Immediate resistance. So you mentioned that you got in at 878, 878. Let's see, 878, probably somewhere around here, which is fine, right? Because this previously, right, was actually you got in somewhere around here, right? And this previously was actually a support, right? This 800 was actually a support. Remember, that was what we mentioned, right? And is it okay to buy at a support zone? I think it's perfectly okay to buy at a support zone. But the key thing here is to have a plan, because if it break down below the support zone, then what are you going to do about it, right? So this is where we are at right now, right? In terms of resistance, right, apart from this 800, which is the immediate resistance, you can see that around 1000 to about this 1100, right? I would say that actually here we are also seeing some sort of resistance coming back, some selling pressure returning, right? So actually this is what we would call as like a potential sell zone, right? Selling pressure return, push price back down. $1,000 is also known as a psychological level as well, right? So right now, I mean, price break below the 800, right? By right, when you actually got in somewhere here at the support zone, right? I mean, of course, if here take profits better lah, take some profits, or here take some profits good lah. But I don't know whether you got take some profits, right? But now we are here, right? And because you are sitting on some losses, that's the reason why the question will come about like, hey, next week can rebound or not? Then maybe I don't have losses anymore, I can sell again, right? I don't know, right? But if it does recapture this 800 and prices were to rebound back to this near 1000, 1001, I think again here, nothing wrong to actually take profits, right? Nothing wrong to take profits near the resistance zone. But what if it doesn't? And if it continues to head down, then where are the levels that perhaps you want to take note of? Especially so now we got a bearish signal and 20 days moving average is pointing down, short-term weakness is present. I think the next level that perhaps you want to watch for would be the $600 support level lah. Because if prices were to come down here and it breaks below this $600, very likely we might have another 1 daily bearish signal, and the 20 days moving average might point down even more, right? And we don't want to be holding on to a stock, right, whereby we don't want to have losses, unrealized losses, right, that keeps getting bigger and bigger because we don't want to take action now. Maybe perhaps this could be a short-term trade. Suddenly, if it go down some more, your short-term suddenly become long-term, right? We don't want that. So we want to have a plan, right? And I also don't know whether perhaps you might have done your position sizing or not, because from here to here, you can see 870 something, right? You mentioned to here, you want to give it a bit more chance, right? Because by right, if break below the 800, you might want to get out with its exposure. But if you give it a bit more chance, break the 600 support, we are talking about the loss for one share, about $300. I don't know whether do you do your position sizing, because if you tell me 50 shares, $300, that's $15,000 loss. I don't know how big your account size is as well, whether, everybody risk appetite is different, right? So that is something that you also got to manage on your end based on your position, right? Your position, because I don't know exactly how much you bought, okay? So, but $600, I think that will be the very key support level that you definitely want to watch for, because if this doesn't hold, potentially you might see more weakness returning back towards where you see this level here around 300, 400. This could be the next downside, right? If the $600 is broken. All right. So YL, unfortunately, I'm sorry, I cannot answer you whether it will rebound next week or not. I don't know how the price will move. But right now, what we can see from the chart is that there is some short-term weakness that is being present. All right. And I think there is also one question that I saw by, where is this? Sunlit, right? Sunlit. By the way, I think this, you are asking about these signals, right? Where do we actually get these signals, right? By the way, I think maybe perhaps you might have missed the link earlier on. I think we do have a 1GT LITE trial indicator, you know, a 1GT LITE indicator whereby you can do it, test drive it, right? Test drive it for free for 14 days. You get to actually see this signal by turning it on and off and adding on to your trading view. So basically what you see is what we see. But like what I mentioned earlier on, perhaps the LITE trial, we don't have all these more in-depth functions, right? But you can still see the signals on your own. And perhaps that's where a good place for you to kickstart and see whether, you know, this, how can this actually help you with your trading plan. But of course, that is just the indicator, right? I think indicator is one thing. The other thing is to understand about the indicator, right? And I think Joey next month, I think there's a 1GT webinar, right? Coming up next month, right, Joey?
Yep. I think next month, nothing in July, but I think next month, I think
probably next month, somewhere in August. Yeah,
Fourth
in
of
the next month in August, correct. So the indicator, like I mentioned, right, the 1GT LITE indicator is one thing, right? But to better appreciate, understand how the indicator actually comes about, how it works, right? I think that is good for you to actually attend the webinar as well, right? And it goes hand in hand with the LITE indicator, so you know the LITE indicator, you test drive it already, you attend the webinar as well. I think that will actually perhaps help you with formulating your trading plan. All right, so for YL, right, I think for your stock, I hope that helps to give you something to think about. And for Sunlit, test drive the LITE indicator, and I think the link is actually in the chat.
Yeah.
All right,
so
that is all from me. I'll pass the time back to Joey.
All right, thank you so much. I think Z mentioned about a very important point, which I forget to mention as well. So we do have what we call one good trend LITE indicator. All right, so we're using the Pro indicator, which is a bit more advanced version. That's only for our graduates and you know, some of our mentees as well. So if you want to learn a bit more about the Pro indicator, or maybe even the 7-step checklist, you can attend a free webinar. The link is already in the chat somewhere. Okay, but if you just want to trial or test drive the simpler version, all right, the one good trend LITE indicator, well, that is where you can go to do that. In fact, click on the link in the chat. There's this one good trend LITE trial, all right, and you will pretty much come to this page, right? The exact trading tool that I use, not just me, but me and my team use daily to spot winning trades. And that's what we have been using, right? In a matter of seconds, you can turn on the bullish green signals or the red bearish signals to know what to do, right? If you see a red one, then you know, don't need to rush, be a bit more careful. You see a green one, then maybe a bit more confident, right? But you get clear buy and sell signals in seconds, all right? Even if you're not a trading expert or not a professor or what, right? Don't need, right? That's where you don't just use the 1GT LITE indicator by itself, but essentially you get more than $3,000 worth of training, right, for free, just for test driving it, right? Yeah, so you do not need to pay anything. It's just a 14 days free trial, right? So the link's right in chat. Click on it, you come to this page. Go ahead to test drive this. Okay, let's go one more round. I think we have gone on to like about 12 US stocks. Let's just do one more round very quickly, guys, before we move into the 3 bonus US stocks that we share with you at the end. All right, so let's talk about the next stock. That would be by ABC, right? Looking to buy ASML. All right, ASML Holdings following the recent chips drop. What buying zone? Very good. Thanks for giving us a bit of context. You're looking to buy, you're not looking to sell, you don't have it. All right, so very good. What could be a good entry? Well, ASML is $1,769. So first of all, if you're looking to buy this stock, I would say that it is definitely a stock that it is a good consideration to even buy. Why? First of all, I think just now I talked about one stock whereby it was like down, and then the trend is down, everything is down, right? Bearish signal. But this one, before even I turn on the bullish or bearish signal, later then we turn on, but before we even turn on, you can see that the long-term trend is up. So we already like one third of the battle already, right? At least we're in the same direction as the long-term trend. I mean, look at the red line, obviously is pointing up, right? Blue line also pointing up, right? Red above the blue. It's been up since like quite long, since last year already up, right? In case you're thinking when, it's already up since last year. So long-term trend is up. We are in the same direction as the longer-term trend. So you want to buy, keep long-term, okay, makes sense. Because the long-term trend is up, right? But if the long-term trend is down, you tell me you want to buy and keep long-term, then the question is, are you okay to keep and hold all the way down long-term? If you can, then go ahead. Right? But we want to buy and keep long-term as it goes up. All right. So this one, I would say long-term trend is up, so not too bad. Well, in terms of the short-term trend, we look at the green 20 days moving average line. All right. It was like down a little bit, and then flat, and then up. Now I would say a little bit up, maybe a bit sideways, right? But not down. All right, Ken? Okay, now let's go back to your question, right? You're looking to enter, all right, and you're not too sure what could be a good zone, right? So first of all, to enter, I think it's a good opportunity, but let's see what could be a good price level where hopefully it could be a little bit cheaper. It could be a very good, attractive opportunity as well, right? What is the level? Well, what we can do, first of all, to turn on the signal, right? First box, 1, 2, 3, pump. There we go. So this is ASML. Well, not always got green. Sometimes got red color. You can see red color bearish signal that was in February. Then you see it went down, right? But when the new bullish signal came out in April, another one came out in May. You can see for yourself, the green line started to turn up as well. There we go, right? No red color bearish signal as of today. I mean, I don't know whether it will come out when, but as of today, don't have, right? Like right over here, you can see this is in March. It came out. It started to see a bit of weakness, right? So if this bearish signal were to come out over here or here or here, and then then be a bit more careful, don't need to rush, all right, Ken? But it hasn't come out, so I think it still looks okay. Short-term trend may be a bit sideways, but we are definitely still seeing bullishness in this company, right? So what could be a good entry? Well, I would say that maybe we could see some good support coming in right over here. I think 1,700 would be a pretty good psychological support level. And that was where we were holding since beginning of June for about a month already. We are still above here, all right? Resistance very clearly. In fact, a few days back, we touched 2,000. Yeah, 2,000 is a psychological level. And then we came back down. So I think that is a very, very key level. It will take a while to cross the 2,000 now. So any 1,000, 2,000, 500, these are all very key psychological barriers, right? Whereby it's normal to see a bit of obstacle there, all right? Which I think is healthy. A bit of a profit taking near there, consolidate a little bit below it for a while. We break the 2,000, next phase up. Right? Okay, so support-wise, 1,700. I think that's where potentially some good bargain hunting can appear again. But if I can just get another confirmation, all right, I can also turn on the 1GT Pro indicator in terms of the trailing support and resistance, right? Just to see where it is, right? Are we above it? All right, let's take a look. There we go. So you can see once I turn it on, you can see this line, all right, below the candlestick, below the price that actually popped up in April and has been following ASML as it moved up, flat, follow, and then now is somewhere around here, all right? Yeah, still above it, a bit lower. Why lower? Because got space, right? As I see, this 1,700 is a psychological support level. It's a horizontal support level, but the trailing support level, you can see, then got space got to give it space, all right? Got space between the price and the trailing spot, right? Because we give it the volatility needed to hopefully move higher. We want to be above it. If we're above it, we are fine. So you can see that it's slightly lower. Why? Because there's a bit of space and it's somewhere around that 1660, right over there, right? So 1,007 to 1660. I'm not too sure whether you really go there, right? That's where, before maybe even in near people want to buy, it might see some good bargain hunting appearing already, like what we've seen previously, right? You can see we neared it, pump. We went down near it and then pump higher, right? So now a bit of a pullback, up, pullback again. I think the next few days will be quite crucial, right? Anything above 1,007, 1660, all right? I think that's where some bargain hunting could appear. It could be a really good opportunity to get in on dips, all right? After the recent profit taking, okay? So that will be ASML. Look pretty good. At least the long-term trend is up. The short-term sideways for now, nothing wrong. But it could be just resting and taking a breather for now before hopefully moving higher, especially after breaking that 2,000 psychological resistance level. All right, so let me pass on the mic to Bervin to cover the next US stock. Bervin, yours.
All right. Okay, so the next stock I'd like to cover is actually very similar to Joey's ASML, but I think quite a lot of you guys were asking about it. Oh, great. I think Vivian is asking about it. All right, bought MU at 1118, and yesterday it came down to $975. Break the support level. What is the next level to actually look out for? I think just now in the start of this session, this session, I think someone was also asking about it. I can't seem to find the level. Somebody, there we go. Riff. How about MU? You acquired it around $900. All right, so I think Vivian is sitting on a little bit of losses, while Rafe is actually sitting on a little bit of profit. Right, so two different ends of the spectrum. Right, so I think yes, definitely we can see very clearly from the chart that prices have started to come down yesterday, and even the day before. But previously, it had tested that high of 1,250. That was where previously sellers have came in. Right, sellers have came in and then pushed prices back down. So is it time to accumulate, or is it time for you to take some profits already? Let's find out. All right, so I think Rafe, I think you are thinking that if prices can rebound from this $900 immediate support, right? Immediate support, you will be met, or could be potentially met with a resistance very close to that 1,100 level, a temporary resistance. Right, so but the thing to take note for Micron is, the average range of trading is quite high. The volatility for the counter is relatively high. So the normal price movements can be a little bit more volatile as compared to other stocks like Nvidia. You don't see that much of a move. Right? So what do you do, or then how do you actually have a plan set up for it? Firstly, you have to acknowledge that, and then you might want to have a larger stop loss plan. Right? You could potentially require a larger stop loss plan to hold on to a counter like this. Right? So that trailing support, I would say very close to that 900 psychological level right now. All right, this is where potentially buyers could also show up. Right, there's some that are waiting to accumulate close to psychological level. I mean, if you are looking to get into Micron, the longer term trend still looks fine. Right, recently we had a 1GT bullish signal come in, but we may be also starting to approach a consolidation range or a consolidation pattern, the beginning of a consolidation pattern, as we have been consolidating since May. Hit up a little bit, came back down, hit up a little bit, now came back down again. All right, so at the start of a consolidation phase, it's fine if you want to take some profits close to the $1,100 level. I think it's completely fine to do so as well. Leave some exposure, all right, although you might want to leave some exposure if the prices are able to push higher to the 1,200 or even at $1,250 range. That could be where you may see some profit taking, and you could join that profit taking as well. Prices able to push past that 1,250 level, I would draw the next upside. Let me just do a little bit of a projection upwards to about maybe 1,350, $1,400 level. That could be a possibility as well. So Vivian was sitting on some losses, or is sitting on some losses as prices closed at about $975 yesterday. But I think what's the plan here, Vivian? If the prices fall below $900, would you want to get out, reduce a little bit of the exposure first, let that trend stabilize before coming back in? Right? If you see buyers coming in, rebounding from the $900 level, then I think that's fine, right? You can continue to hold upwards towards that 1,250 level, $1,200 level. That's where you want to have your target being set as well. So for Vivian, I think for you, you may want to set up some alerts, right? Some alerts close or underneath that $900 psychological level. And if you are thinking whether you can set up 1GT alerts, yes, you're able to do so. Instead of setting up a typical price alert, even for the 1GT LITE indicator, you're able to set up what we call buy or sell alerts. Buy or sell alert, meaning to say if there's any new 1GT bullish signal, the green one, or 1GT bearish signal, the red one coming out, you can be alerted as well. So just very simply right click, add alert onto the stock, select the indicators, choose buy or sell alert, and then create. That way, when there's any new 1GT bullish bearish signals, you will be alerted as well. So if you want to give the 1GT LITE indicator a try, you can click on the link in the chat to give it a try there. 14 days LITE trial, can cancel anytime. Right, just to help yourself get alerted to any new moves or potential new moves for the stock. Right, so I think for Micron right now, Vivian, you may want to have another alert where I think for yourself above the 1,100 level, set up some alerts there, because that is a temporary resistance. You want to be alerted if that resistance gives way, and then you may be sitting on a new support as well. Then the last alert I would say have it close to that $1,200, $1,250 level. And then if you want to take some profits, then I would say completely fine. But overall, the longer term trend still looks good. And if you intend to hold on for longer term, I think at this point you don't have to take any immediate actions. I mean, you cannot take any actions tonight as well. Market is closed. But in the next few weeks, continue to monitor the trend. Continue to monitor that range. Continue to monitor to see if you are heading towards a consolidation pattern. All right, so that's for Micron. Still looking good so far. Pass the time now to Z to cover the last requested stock by you guys. Z?
All right, thanks, Mervin. Okay, so let me share my screen here. And I think the last stock, right, that perhaps I would cover will be something that is very relatable to just now. I think what Joey, Mervin, and have covered, and also some of the stocks that we have covered earlier. And I think would be this ETF called SOXL ETF, which for those of you who don't know, it's called the Daily Semiconductor Bull 3 times ETF. So this ETF, right, basically what it tracks, right, is that it actually, you can see over here, right, here you go. It actually tracks the portfolio of the 30 largest US listed semiconductor companies. But the one thing that I want to highlight is that this is a 3 times ETF. So it is a leverage ETF, right? So for some people, you know, I think some of the stocks that we have covered earlier on, right? I think Mervin just covered ASML. It is here, right? ASML. And Joey covered, Mervin covered Micron. Joey covered ASML. Yeah. As ASML here, Micron here, you know, we also covered stocks like Intel, which is also here, right? All these are the semiconductor stocks, which already is volatile on its own, right? But this one, I just want to highlight that it is a leverage ETF, which is 3 times, right? There's a 3 times leverage factor. So it might not be for everybody, right? Because some people might really think that the semiconductor stock on its own is already very volatile. But for those of you who are a bit more aggressive, right? Perhaps this is something that you could look at as well, you know, in terms of having a diversification of all of these different stocks, not just holding one, right? But then just bear in mind of the leverage factor, all right? So for this, as you can see, right now, you know, as of yesterday, price actually closed at 181.47, right? And over here, you can see that I've drawn 2 lines, right? One is the support and one is actually the resistance. So I would say that the support, right, I think it will be somewhere around this 160 support zone right over here, whereby previously you can see that price was actually testing over here, right? It broke below but quickly rebounded, right? Buyers came in to push prices back up. And subsequently, right over here again, you can see that this candlestick with long lower shadow indicating that buyers are actually present at that area, right? Right now, prices is heading back towards the 160 support zone to retest it, right? Of course, we do have a 1GT bullish signal that appeared here, right, on the 22nd of June. It broke above, but did it manage to hold above this 280 resistance level? Unfortunately, it did not, right? It very quickly, it came back down, and right now, this is where we are at, nearing to the support zone. Right, so I'm not sure for passion forever, right? Passion ever, whether you are holding on to this stock, or are you looking to buy, looking to sell, or whether you're still here, right? Can let me know, right? Can let me know. But for those of you, I don't know, some of you guys here maybe have this stock in your portfolio, this ETF in your portfolio, then perhaps this is where you want to be a bit more cautious. Why? Because we start to see the 20 days moving average starts to point out, right? And it is heading to test this 160 support zone, right? And if I were to pull out this thing called the trading support, which just now I believe you guys have seen, right? It is a dynamic support that actually follows the price, right? And it looks to be testing this right here, right? You can see that the trading support is very close to the 160 horizontal support, right? That didn't account for volatility. So it is right here, right? So the thing is that if prices were to break below this 160, very likely we may see more selling pressure, right? Returning back to this counter, there will be a 1GT bearish signal, and prices, as you can see here, right, it actually went up all the way without any consolidation for about 1 month. Could it come back down all the way without any consolidation for 1 month? Potentially, it could happen as well, right? Because we don't know where are the buyers actually returning, right? If it does break below the 160. So as mentioned, because this is slightly more, I would say not slightly, it's much more volatile, right? Because of the leverage factor, and also because of the semiconductor industry that it tracks, right? For those who are actually looking at this, make sure to have risk management plan in place. All right, and also to do your relevant, position sizing based on your risk appetite as well, right? But of course, I mean, if it can rebound like that, from here to rebound to here, great, right? Nothing wrong to, again, based on the 1GD framework, nothing wrong to take profits near the resistance zone. Okay, so XOXL, I hope that gives you guys something to think about for those who are a bit more aggressive, right? But then otherwise, I think that would be the last stock, last requested stock from you guys. I'll pass my time back over to Joey so that he can kickstart today's bonus section.
All right, thank you so much. And there we have it, guys. We have covered a total of like 15 stocks today, right? More than 2 hours already. Thank you so much for joining us, guys. My apologies. Very sorry if we cannot cover more stocks, right? I think on a quick count just now, more than 50, 60 over US stocks. We really cannot cover everything, guys. It probably take like another 5 or 6 hours. All right, so we hope that for those stocks that we have covered, you got a better opinion. All right, if we did not cover your stocks, hopefully you can join us in the next AMAS session. All right, or next one we'll be back to the US market. So next Friday we'll be back to the Singapore market. Now let's move on to the next important part of today's AMAS live show, which would be kind of like the top US stocks that we want to share with you. So 3 of us over here, so we'll share with you total of 3 top US stocks. So the very first stock I'd like to share with you guys today, right, would be something different, not really in the technology sector, all right, not really a bit of AI, all right, and that stock would be what we call Cardinal Health, all right. The code is CAH, right over here. One of the stocks that actually we have been following since last year, but of course we moved a little bit back into the technology sector that's been doing really well from January all the way to May, all right. But over the past few weeks, well, I think that we are starting to see strength again in this company called Cardinal Health, $238. So let me just go ahead to turn on the bullish and bearish signals to show you what I mean. Well, so you can see that since like last year, if you look at the red line and the blue line, all right, the long-term trend has been up since last year. That's why it was even in our watch list since last year, right? And every time, right, if the long-term trend is up, every time we get bullish signals coming out, you can see for yourself, all the way up. There we go, all the way up, right? But doesn't mean bullish signal means you'll go up like 100% or 200% in like 1 month and then forever keep on going up lah. No lah, all right? Sometimes along the way, we will have bearish signal popping up and sellers comes back, the green line turns down and we start to retrace back down again, down, right? But what happens is that over the past few weeks, well, we have came back to our watch list. Why? Because after the selling from March and April, it seems like, not really it seems, but a fact is that we had not one, but we had 2 1GT bullish signals actually popping out. So the long-term trend was still up, no issue. The green 20 days moving average line that was going down in March, flat, down in April, May, down, started to turn up. I would say about 3 weeks back. All right. Is it still turning up? Yes. It is still turning up right now in terms of the green 20 days moving average line. That give us an idea of the short-term trend, right? So why are we seeing strength in Cardinal Health? Well, as I say, right, there's a bit of sector rotation away from the technology sector into stocks like the healthcare. All right. I think Z has covered this stock called LLY, Eli Lilly and Co. Right. Also in the healthcare, we have Cardinal Health right over here that's played out pretty well over the past 2 weeks, and there could still be continuing more strength in the next few weeks to next 1 or 2 months as well, right? And what I like about Cardinal Health is that apart from the 2 1GT bullish signals, right, we have actually also broken a very key resistance level that we have traded below for about 6 months. I mean, since the beginning of the year in January, February, we were here and then we came down, we touched and then we came down and then we got bearish signal and then we went all the way down, right? So we were actually below the $230 for about 5-6 months, right? But over the past 1 over week, I mean, we're supposed to like touch and come down again, right? Because we have been doing that, right? But no, over the past 1 week, we actually went above that 230 psychological resistance level, all right? And are we still above it? Yeah, we're still above it. Now it's like 238, right? So we're still above it, right? So this 230 resistance could potentially turn into what we call a new support level. So that's why I think it's a bit more bullish the fact that we actually attempted to break the 5-6 months psychological resistance level. We got 2 bullish signals playing out since early to mid of June. The short-term trend is up. Long-term trend has been up since last year. Looking good, right? Looking good. Now, maybe what we could see is some, selling near the temporary resistance, maybe about $240. I mean, since like the past 4 to 5 days, it touched near 240 and came back down. Right now we are 238, so about $1-2 below 240 lah, right? But I think it looks bullish. Anything above 230, if the 240 were to give way as well, I think that's where we could potentially see more upside. All right, and what could be the next target actually be? Well, we can do a little bit of a projection. I mean, looking at the range we have seen, right? It used to be right over here from like 180 to 190, but there's a bit of a projection from here, maybe to here, right? If we kind of like project it upwards all the way above 230, well, target could be revised all the way to anything near 250 to even the 280, right? I mean, not saying that you will straight away go there to 280, but that could be where, based on this consolidation that we have done for the past 1 year, or maybe past 7 to 8 months since November, right? We could be out of the consolidation phase. If we project it upwards, that's where we could see more strength, right? Targets being revised as well, right? So this is Cardinal Health, not too bad, right? Bullish signals that popped up in like June, still in play, is poised for potentially even more upside, especially if we break that $240. All right, so that will be my top US stock for today in a new healthcare sector. All right, not really a tech sector. I hope you guys like this stock. Now, let me pass on the mic to Bervin to share his top US stock with you guys. All right, Bervin?
All right, thanks, Joey. Okay, so mine will not be in the healthcare sector, but I'm going back to something that is a little bit more familiar by you guys as well. So this is one of the stocks that I think in the past we have covered as well, and it's come back into our radar again after it had broke out of its consolidation phase. Finally broken out of the consolidation phase. Previously, it was just pretty much being kept within that 260, 270 level, all the way up to that $350 level from September all the way till the middle of June. All right, so it has since then finally broke out of this phase and found new higher supports, very quickly finding new higher supports above that $350 level, and then now subsequently above that $370 level. All right, so you can see in the past few months that 100 days, 200 days moving average are just a little bit more flat as compared to in the past. All right, it has been a little bit more flat. That 20 days moving average just going up and down, up and down, up and down. Finally crossing above both these 100 days, 200 days moving average very decisively, and then taking off from there. All right, so that key support I would still say remains at about that $350, which was a resistance, turn support, and where that 20 days moving average is currently sitting on as well. All right, but the temporary support I would say is right around that $370. How did I get there? Just very simply did a projection like this, then have that $370 right there, where that psychological $400 target is now in sight. Is now inside. Even during yesterday's sell down, I think the industrial sector held up quite well. Didn't see much of a move, a little bit of a weakness, a little bit of indecisiveness, but most of those key supports are still holding up right now. So I can just very quickly want to turn on that trailing support level. You can see it is also very close to that $350 level. So this is what we call like a confluence of factors. All right, so that $350 level is a very, very key support level for all of us. Right now, we have alerts being set up underneath the $350 level, close to the $350 level, above it as well. So we want to be alerted to any moves close to this level and have some alerts being set up close to that $400 level, especially for those of you guys I know who are still holding on to GE Aerospace. Finally seeing a breakout move, you may be thinking, what is the next target level, right? I say right here, $400 psychological level. Have some alerts being set up there. If you want to finally take some profits, take some money off the table, enjoy those profits, I think you can do so. I think close to the $400 level. If it comes back close to that $370 or $350 level again, I think that is where it you can see those accumulating moves start to come in once more. So I think so far for GE Aerospace has been on our watch list. It's been sleeping for the past few months, finally waking up. So just pay a little bit more attention to it if you haven't had it on your watch list just yet. Maybe it's time to add it into your watch list. All right, so that is my bonus stock, GE Aerospace. Pass the time now to Z to cover her bonus stock for today. Z?
All right, thanks, Bhavin. Okay, let me change the screen. And okay, there we go. The bonus stock, right, that I would like to share with you guys today. Why the banner changed? Okay, correct. Okay, it will be Johnson and Johnson. All right. So Joey actually covered CAH, right, which is Cardinal Health, and he mentioned that the healthcare space is looking great, right? So I'm going to stay in the healthcare sector, but maybe from a slightly different angle, right? Because CAH, for those of you who don't know, a little bit of background information, it is more about healthcare distribution and logistics, right? But on the other hand, Johnson and Johnson, right, it's more of a diversified healthcare giant, right? They mainly do pharmaceutical, medical technology devices, right? So both of them, CAH and Johnson, they are riding on the healthcare team, right? But then the thing is that they are just different parts of the value chain in the healthcare sector, right? And if you go and take a look at, the healthcare sector, just go and pull up, the healthcare ETF, right? To take a look at generally how is it performing, right? I think you can see that it is starting to trend up, right? I think, and that is where, potentially funds might be shifting, right? Like what Joey mentioned, from technology to perhaps something like the healthcare as well, right? So let's dive right into J&J, right? And take a look at some of the levels that we can potentially take note of, right? So as of last night, Johnson and Johnson actually closed at 263, right? And overall, you can see that this stock over here, right, uptrend is actually strong, right? I mean, I past few months, 20 days moving average wasn't that great, right? I mean, there was periods whereby it started to go down, it hit sideways, but now it's starting to head back up again. We got 2-1 GT bullish signal. Longer term trend actually has been great, right? In fact, if I were to zoom out, you guys can see it actually has been great since 2025 June, right? Actually, in fact, from 2025 June, when the first 1 GT bullish signal came out to this bearish signal, let's just take a look. From here to here, the bearish signal come out. It's about 57%. Not too bad, right? I mean, multiple 1 GT bullish signal, uptrend is intact, give us that confirmation, prices find new higher support. Great, right? From February 2026, all the way to recently, right? I guess it has just been taking a breather, as you guys know, funds rotated and things like that, whereby, over the past few months, what has been the most popular thing that people always talk about, like AI, right? Yeah, so perhaps it could be where funds actually flow into AI as well, right? So now perhaps it could be flowing back, right? And we are seeing some strength returning to healthcare sector and specifically to J&J as well, right? So you can see over here, right? I think the immediate support level, right, it would be around this 250, which I've drawn right here, because previously this 250 was actually a resistance, right? You can see right here, tested here, nearly didn't even touch it, right? But selling pressure came in, pushed prices back down. We got 1 GT bearish signal coming out too, in fact, and it went all the way to 220, which is, I think, one of the very crucial support level to actually take note of for Johnson & Johnson, right? But subsequently, buyers came in, push it back up. We got 2-1 GT bullish signal coming out. 20 days moving average also starts to point up, aligning with the longer term uptrend, which has been intact since 2025, like mentioned, right? And right now, this is where we are at, right? So we know that 250 would be the new immediate support level, right? So potentially, this could be where could the buy zone be at, right? And this is where we could be setting some price alert right near 250, 255, 254, 253. Those are the levels that we can set some price alert on, right? And in terms of upside target, where could potentially be the upside target? Again, if I were to zoom out far enough, prices never reached this level before. It's an all-time high, right? And based on a projection like so, projected up, potential upside targets could be towards 270, where, potentially selling pressure could return, right? This is based on the projection range, right? But of course, now price last night closed at 263, and you can see that it's kind of like not really here, not really there, right? So usually in such situation, you don't FOMO, right? We don't, because like, oh, you're scared of missing out and then you just rush in to buy without any plan, right? Make sure to have a plan in place whenever you are placing any trades or looking at any stocks, right? So like mentioned, it will be good to enter nearer to a support zone, like we always mention, near a buy zone. Why? Because then that is where you could have a better risk to reward ratio, right? But of course, if you enter near the buy zone, right, make sure to have your stop loss as well, right? It could be slightly below the 250 because if support is broken, but we could be wrong, right? Prices could retrace back down, get out of the position first. That's also fine, right? The other way is to actually make use of the trailing support that we have talked about earlier on, right? Many times. And this is where, prices actually takes into, the trading support takes into account of the price and the stock volatility, right? So if you want to place your stop limit order slightly below the trading support, taken into account of your position sizing, I think that is most likely fine as well, right? But overall, I think definitely when looking at J&J right now, definitely still looking very bullish. So if you are looking beyond, like the usual AI tech names, right? I think healthcare sector could be one that could be worth keeping on your watch list to continue watch out for it, be it for CAH, be it for J&J, but make sure to set your price alerts accordingly. Don't rush in just because you see price is it has went up, right? But make sure to have a plan in place, practice patience, have your trading plan, have your entry, have your target, and have your stop loss, and let it play out. All right, so that would be Johnson & Johnson, the bonus stock that I would like to share today. I think I've come to the end of my sharing. I'll pass the time back over to Joey to close off today's session.
All right, there we have it. Thank you so much, Z. And yes, guys, we have covered a total, as promised, right? 3 top US stocks. And what are the 3 stocks? Well, the 3 stocks would be by me. The first one, Cardinal Health. The code is CAH. All right, and then Bervin covered on GE Aerospace. All right, the code is GE. Right, and Z finally covered on another healthcare stock, and that will be Johnson & Johnson. The code is J and J. Right, so these 3 stocks. All right, put it in your watch list. We hope that helps. And I think we have pretty much come to the end of today's Ask Me Any Stock session, almost 1 p.m. already. All right, so thank you so much for joining us. So what happens is that if you found value, right, just type a V for value, guys. If you found value in today's AMAS session, just make sure all of you learn something. You can take away something from your own stocks that we covered as well. V for value, guys, right? So that it gives us the motivation to continue doing this, right? Just for free to share with the public. V for value, let me know. All right, let's see. Wow, thank you so much. Lots of V, lots of value, right? With ABC, yeah, definitely. I think I covered your stock, right? V. Thanks, Jimmy, as well. Cheng Xiang as well. Jimmy, value. Awesome. Now, as I say, guys, we have shared with you guys top 3 US stocks, right? But if you want to actually not just get the top 3 US stocks, but top Singapore stocks, right? On a daily basis. In fact, Singapore has been doing pretty well. I think, in fact, quite strong compared to the US technology sector. Singapore has been doing really well. Not just the banks, but we're looking at other stocks as well. So if you want to get not just these 3 US stocks that we just shared with you just now, the US market, but also some of the top Singapore stocks, okay? Find out how you can become a client of mine in Phillip Securities, because that's what we do, right? On a daily basis. In fact, later I'm going to get my team to broadcast out one of the ideas that just came to my watch list, all right? But we actually share some of those top Singapore ideas for free on a daily basis by WhatsApp, right? You do not need to pay anything more. It's pretty much the same as whatever you pay when you're trading. I mean, when you trade, you need a trading account, right? So the question is, the trading account that you're using, your broker, right, got any service or not? Like anybody doing anything? Like, is there a real person there you can WhatsApp, can call, or like hotline? All right, if it's like hotline, no service, nobody WhatsApp you, no idea, no video, nothing, then you want to click on the link in the chat again, check it out, right? So at least you get some personalized service, then you also don't pay anything more, Does it make sense? Well, all right, so link is right in the chat, okay? And look forward to work together with you closer with my team, and also for you to get some of our top ideas as well on a daily basis, right? So thank you so much, right? Value, Ellison, Josephine, Chong as well. Anything to add, Z and Bervin?
All right, so I think like Joey said, the next webinar that he's hosting is, I think, quite a while away. I mean, we only start of July, but the webinar's in June. Sorry, not in June, in August. You have about a month to go, but I think don't wait until the very last minute to sign up for the webinar. Right, the link is in the chat. And sign up early, log in your slots early. Don't wait until last minute, then no slot, then cannot go for the webinar. Then I think that one, sorry, we cannot really help you then. Right? So I think the US market is not trading today as well. All right, next week, Monday, resume trading. Hopefully, all you guys have the alert being set up for yourself already, and then we can begin the next half of the year for the US market on a good note, lah. Right?
Yeah. So for me, I just want to say thank you everyone for hanging out with us, every Friday. Hopefully, for the past 2 hours, right, we have helped you to kind of like simplify the chart a little bit, like give you some ideas to actually explore, right? So I guess until next time, next week, right? Just remember to stay patient, make sure to trust the trend, right? And also, most importantly, manage your risk. All right. So that's all from me.
Well said, well said. Yeah, manage your risk, guys. All right, and preferably if you have a system, a structure, kind of like to guide you. Don't let the emotions come into the picture, especially when there's fear. It's selling now by 5%, 10%. You get freaked out, don't know what to do. Right, right. Do not panic as well. All right, be cool about it. Have a plan. Follow the plan. Okay, and I think Bervin mentioned as well. We don't have time to cover everything together in terms of the entire one good trend strategy, but we do have a webinar that's about 2 hours long. Next month, 4th of August. The link is in the chat. Click on it, register for it. That's where we'll break it down for you even clearer, all right, in terms of the 7-step checklist that we follow on a daily basis. All right, so till then, guys, we'll see you in the next AMAS session next Friday again. Joey here, my team signing off. Take care. Have a good weekend. Bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Have a good weekend.
Bye.
Bye.